And now, introducing the man who once upon a time sat in a Denny's and ordered the world's grandest slam, only to be crushed through a table by a nearby dining Mark Henry who misheard his request. Once realizing his error, Henry simply threw a wad of cash in the man's face and said, "Fix yourself up," before leaving to a roaring ovation. The memories will last for a lifetime, and so will his neck spasms. He is Glenn Clark.
You really put that one together, huh? That was a story. It took us on a journey. Good morning. It is Glenn Clark Radio. I am the aforementioned Glenn Clark. He is Paul Valley, and yeah, this happens to me like twice a year. It's no fun. I have where your neck is supposed to curve. Mine does not, which is the damnedest thing. Found that out when I was like 26 or 27 years old. We were at the Super Bowl one year. I want to say it was the Super Bowl in Indianapolis. And I woke up one morning, and I couldn't lift up my neck. And I was like, well, that doesn't seem great. I literally crawled to the bathroom. I said to Forrester, dude, I'll meet you. This might take a while. He was like, all right. And Drew, of course, didn't know how to get us on the air. So I was going to have to get down there. It's 5 in the morning. I literally crawled to the bathroom like, what? Do I need to call an ambulance? I didn't know what was going on. I had never dealt with it before. So I got hooked up with a chiropractor when I got home. And he did the x-rays. And he's like, hey, man, here's the problem where you're, I was like, well, what do you do about that? He's like, not much. Come in, see me, get adjusted. You'll feel better. You'll deal with it for the rest of your life, basically. And I was like, oh, cool. And I think he said something about, there was a surgery, but it wasn't really going to fix it as much as – I was just like, all right, neato, gang, neato, terrific, So I admittedly did not keep up religiously. My wife, for a little while, was working for a chiropractor, so that was great. I could be in there all the time. And then she stopped doing that, and that sucked because – that was quite the hookup that we had there. So, admittedly, I haven't religiously been going to the chiropractor the way that I should. And this morning happened to be another morning where I woke up and I said, oh, my God, I cannot lift my neck. So, that's fun. By the time I was able, I did the bit where I rolled off the bed. I wish I could have videoed it. I rolled off. I somehow contorted my body to the end of the bed, rolled off onto the floor, and figured I was better there for some reason. Now, why I thought that, I don't know. But I rolled onto the floor. I laid there for a bit. My wife walks by. She's like, hey, you okay? And instead of saying something like, no, I'm not, there's a real problem here, I said, yeah, just my neck. I'm good. I am perpetually the person, this is how I'm going to die. I'm going to die because I can't just say, no, I have a real problem. One time my body went into shock. We were swimming in a cenote in Mexico on our honeymoon.
What does it say, cenote?
It's a sinkhole, right?
Oh, okay.
We were in the biggest sinkhole in the world or whatever. And it was some big thing. Everybody's like, go swimming in it. I'm like, all right. So I go out, I go swimming in it. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go in. There's something more for me here. I've said I've done it, and I'm ready to go in now. And so I start swimming in, and my body literally goes into shock. It's another thing that has never really been answered for me, by the way. Went to see a doctor about it. They're like, yeah, your body just goes into shock. I'm like, can I expect that again at some point? It's is there a circumstance?
What better time than swimming in a sinkhole?
Right? So my arms still work, but I can't feel anything below my waist, right? I thought I was paralyzed. I'm like, what the hell? And it's starting to look bad. I'm doggy paddling my way back in. I'm a grown man, a little bigger at that point in my life, doggy paddling his way in. It was butt awkward. And I got to a point where I realized this might be a problem trying to swim back in. I might, but I don't want to scream. I don't want to yell because I don't want to create a panic. We're in Mexico after. I don't want to create any sort of panic. We had a conversation, my wife and I, the next day. I'm like, I probably would have just died because I didn't want to create a scene.
Were there lifeguards?
I actually don't think so. And looking back on it, it's Mexico, man. There aren't really rules.
When I was a teenager, my stepbrother and I think I was 16 and he was 14. We were swimming in the ocean, down in Ocean City.
Yeah, sure.
And we went a little too far out.
Yeah.
And we were struggling to get back in. Like, could not get back in to the point where everybody's on the beach standing.
And
looking,
they know,
And
right?
they're all looking at us.
Yeah.
And there's a lifeguard, and he's, like, whistling at us and waving his arms. And we're trying our damnedest to get back in, and we cannot.
Yeah.
And finally, I somehow managed to catch a wave. As soon as the lifeguard is running out to come get us, I catch a wave, and I get in, and I'm walking out of the water like,
no, I'm fine. What are you doing? I'm good.
I was always good.
I was good.
No,
don't worry about me.
Externally, I'm good. No, internally, I was about to die.
Yeah,
I was about to
right.
get swept out to sea.
Yeah, of course.
I can't remember. If
100%.
my stepbrother had a little harder time. He did not get. I think the lifeguard did have to go out with him, but I think he ended up getting in under his own volition as well.
Okay.
But it was terrifying,
Well,
and the embarrassment.
Right, it's the story of my life. Like I've known Don Moeller for a long time, and when he would talk about Kevin Kamenetz, the former county executive in Baltimore County, and the way that he died, like he didn't want to be a problem to anyone. Like he just never. And so when he was having, I think it was a heart attack, he just didn't want to cause grave concern for anyone else. He was. Don would say he was so selfless in that way. Me, I'm not sure that it's selfless as much as, to your point, I just don't want to be embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to avoid embarrassment. And, a little bit, it's like I never want to be the cause of a ruckus or the cause of great commotion. I had, I think people might remember I had these seizures a couple years ago, and I was like literally just like, look, man, I'm fine. Like, I'm fine. They're like, no, you're not. You're not fine. You just passed out and convulsed on a driveway. Like, you're not fine. You need to go to a hospital. I'm like, I'm good. Don't worry about me. I tried to call a baseball game as I was experiencing kidney stones. And I didn't know what they were at the time because I had never experienced it. And by the way, if you never have, I pray you never do, because I've known multiple women who have said, I'd rather go through childbirth again than go through kidney stones. It's pure hell, but like I just didn't want to. I didn't want to be. I was calling a baseball game. I'm like, and so I literally was like calling. It sounded like this: strike, ball 2. Like, I mean, I wasn't even doing play-by-play. I mean, I was just like basically. I mean, it was awful. And at one point, like the end of the 6th inning, I was working up in Aberdeen. They're like, dude, something's wrong. Like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea, but it ain't good. They're like, you should probably go home. I'm like, okay, I'll go home. Literally ended up pulled over on the side of the road and ended up like calling my wife, who at the time was too drunk to have answered her phone. Still, big thanks, baby. So eventually I'd break down. I'd call my parents, which is the worst decision I could make because they panicked. Because I didn't know what it was. I'm like, it might be appendicitis. You know what I mean? Like, I have no clue. Like, if you've never been through it before, you have no idea what's going on. You just know it's the worst pain you've ever felt in your entire life. So they, of course, called an ambulance. And I'm like, thanks for that, Bill, Mom and Dad. Appreciate that. I get it. They were concerned.
Right.
But yeah, I'm that guy. So this morning, my wife walks by and she's like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just my neck. I literally can't get off the floor." Like, I should have said, "Could you please come help me get off the floor? I have a problem." But I can't do it. I worry that I'm going to be that old person that like won't put their medic alert bracelet on, you know what I mean? Like, or what's the thing, the help
me, I've fallen and I can't get up.
I won't do that. I'll just stay on the floor until
help me, I've fallen.
But
I'm good.
Yeah, right. Until my cats start eating me or whatever, you know? Like, I'm just worried that that's what I'm going to end up being in my life because I don't want to cause a stir. I don't want to cause any problems.
So will this loosen up as the day goes on? And you'll
a little bit. At one point, I looked over and I realized I moved my neck too fast, and I was like, you know, as you were talking. Yeah, like, and I took some, pain. I didn't take the good stuff. I just took some ibuprofen, and I'll take some more, and, I'll get through it. And, like, once I got off the floor, I was okay. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't pleasant, but I'll live. You know what I mean? And then I need to schedule an appointment with the guy because I just need to get adjusted. Really, is all that it is. I just need to go get adjusted, and I should be all right. But yeah, that's what's going on in my life. It's a super fun day, and I've literally strolled in here at like 9:59. By the way, thanks. On top of everything else, there was road work being done over here.
Oh, the whole thing.
I'm like,
up.
Jesus Christ, why not? Coming up on the program today, this is a cool story. Kyle Stackpole, once upon a time, was an intern right here at Pressbox, and now he is the NFL draft analyst for CBS Sports. It's a typical path that people might take. Lil Jordan's probably going to be the next one, probably the way where he's headed. Kyle's going to join us in a few minutes for this week's NFL Draft segment. Later on in the program, Drew Forrester will check in. We're going to catch up with, as Paul alluded to in the open, the world's strongest man. AEW's Mark Henry is going to join us. They're doing an event to benefit the Brigance Brigade tomorrow night at Jimmy's Famous Seafood. And later on in the show, we will also chat. Oh, man, I just got a ping. Just got a ping right as I was saying that. That's cool. The Hall of Famer, Earl the Pearl Monroe, is going to join us. He is involved with the CIAA Tournament, which is coming to Baltimore here in just a little bit over a month. We'll be at the Royal Farms Arena, and we'll be taking over much of the city. For those that don't know, the CIAA Tournament is kind of an all-encompassing event. It is a party. I mean, it ain't like Division I conference basketball tournaments. Like, this kind of takes over your city, and there are so many events involved, and I believe one of them is a clinic that Earl the Pearl is going to be running. One of the greats of all time, former Baltimore Bullet, Earl the Pearl Monroe, will check in with us a little bit later on in the program, tell us more about his own experience and why the CIAA tournament is so different and why it's something you're going to want to be a part of and you're going to want to get tickets for. And I'm telling you, it's a different event, man. It is not like the CAA tournament or something like that. No offense to that, and I was happy when that was in Baltimore. But this is a different beast that we're talking about in the CIAA tournament. So all that on the program today, that's all coming up. Today's show is brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. On Sunday, the NFL chicks, Sarita Hubbard and I, will be there 3 o'clock for the Buccaneers-Rams game. We want you to come join us in the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook. We'll be hanging out. We'll be giving our thoughts on the game, on how you should bet, on hopefully Tom Brady getting his face beat in, on all of those things. But if you got questions, like if you've been someone who's wanting to get into sports betting, but you just didn't want to admit to any of your friends that you didn't know how to do it or that you don't understand. I was there recently with our buddy Gary Stein. Gary Stein has been plugged into sports more than almost anyone else in this community. Gary Stein has worked for literally every team. We've talked about that. He's worked for the Ravens. He's worked for the Orioles. He's worked for Maryland. He was on radio for years. Gary Stein is as plugged in as anyone might be, and he sheepishly admitted to me he didn't really know how to bet on sports. He'd never done it before, and he wanted to put a bet in. He was excited. We were there in the sports book. He was like, I want to do it, but I don't actually know what I'm doing. I said, Gary, no problem, pal. Walked over to the kiosk with him. There's 50 self-service kiosks in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Walked him through all of that. So if you're someone, this is not something to be ashamed of. It means you don't have a problem. You weren't doing things illegally here in the state of Maryland for a long time. If you're someone who just doesn't fully understand everything about, like, it's like, I like the idea of a parlay, but also, what is a parlay? If you are that type of person, don't be ashamed. Sunday, as you know, we don't kink shame. I've said that forever, and we're not going to start anytime soon. On Sunday, you can come. What's that?
Never mind.
What?
I was going to make it. I was going to say, tell him the real reason your neck's spasming.
Yeah. I wish. We are going to be there, and you can ask your questions, and you can get your information and learn more about how to bet. And we will. I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a fun day on Sunday as the NFL chick Sarita Hubbard and I will be in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino Hotel in Hanover. Maryland played last night, so moving on. And I can't do this every time they play a basketball game. I can't pretend like I'm watching. I'm not watching. I'm not. Unless for some reason someone tells me something particularly interesting is happening, and Twitter will do that. Unless that's the case, I'm not going to be watching. They're not good. That's the reality, and there's nothing to say. There's nothing to learn. I know Patrick was talking yesterday, and like Julian Reese is the one exception where like maybe there's something to be gained for a future team. Like maybe. I still don't know that because I have no idea whether or not Julian Reese is someone who's going to stick around. We'll find out. I get it. His sister's there, and he's from here, and so there's every reason to think that this is where he wants to be, but you know, I thought Daryl Morcell was where he wanted to be too, right? Like, he's from Baltimore, and he didn't stick around, and they didn't even have a coaching change. Although maybe he knew something. In hindsight, maybe he knew something. So I don't know what Julian Reese is going to choose to do. But what else is there to watch? Tell me what else there is to be interested in related to Maryland basketball. It's just sort of what it is. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not. It's reality. So, you know, you want to watch the games? Watch them. I'm going to pay more attention to the other local college basketball teams that are interesting. Loyola plays at home tonight. I would go check them out. They're good. Towson plays at home tomorrow night. I would go check them out. They're good. Navy's good. I would embrace those teams. Coppin and Morgan both have a chance in the MEAC. That's what I would be doing if you're really invested in basketball. You can't get me to having a take or a thought, or you want me to yell more about Hunter Dickinson being at Michigan and eating Maryland's lunch every time they play. Yeah, it sucks. I mean, it sucks. But nothing we can do about it now other than the hope that the next coach is able to get the next Hunter Dickinson that exists in the D.C. area. That's all you can do.
I've admitted on this, I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to college basketball. I enjoy it, I watch it, but I don't know how it works. With Maryland, they're very bad this year.
Obviously.
How quickly can they turn it around?
It's going to take a few years.
It's going to take a few years.
They're likely going to have they're going to have, you already got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, it's likely going to be in a completely overhauled roster. It's likely to be transfers for the most part next year. I mean, it's going to take a little while. And that's going to be frustrating too, right? Because they weren't. It's one thing if you're coming off a run of success that it might take a little while. They're not. They have not had significant success in a decade. And so one of the things we're going to have to deal with is whoever the next coach is, there's not going to be an appetite for giving that coach 3 to 5 years in order to get the program consistently where we want it to be. There's going to be an appetite for, you got to fix this immediately, and that's just not something that happens. I mean, I guess the one advantage of the transfer market is you could happen to hit on all of the right transfers, right? Like with the transfer portal being the way it is and with there being the availability for a fifth year for players, maybe whoever this coach is just knocks it out of the park with transfers. And instead of having a disastrous first year, like in no world are you competing to win the Big Ten or make a run to the Final Four, you can be just good enough to be relevant, win enough games that you can keep interest for an entire season. It's possible, and it's more possible than it was, say, 3 to 4 years ago, when you were likely to have attrition but not be able to replace it so quickly. So it's going to take time. Like, there's just no getting around that. It's going to take time for whoever the coach ends up being. But in the meantime, you just can't get me. You cannot get me to get worked up about Maryland basketball games because it is kind of a what it is situation. We all know it's a lost season. And there's a weird bit where, like, during games, people start screaming about Mark Turgeon again. Like, this is cowardly. He knew how bad they were and, wanted out because of it. It's over, man. It's over. Mark Turgeon's gone. I'm not asking you to be critical of Danny Manning. It's an unfortunate circumstance where someone has to be the coach, and Danny Manning is being willing to be the coach. It's laughable before the season that this was ever a ranked team. It's laughable. And all of the excitement that people had about, these transfers they brought in, it was a goof. But I'm not interested. I have no appetite for that. I have no appetite for trying to kick Mark Turgeon any longer. It's just, be done with it. It's frustrating if you're the type of person that can't stop watching the games, that cares so deeply about Maryland basketball that you have to watch every time they play a game. I get it. It's no fun. But it's over. We know where it's headed. It's a lot. I saw somebody on Twitter I wish I could remember who it was. It was like, Maryland's so bad, it's time to blow things up. I'm like, my God, that's exactly what it is. It's already been done. Like, what are we doing? They're blowing it up. There's going to be a new coach. There'll be an entirely new roster, likely because of it. And we'll see where it goes from there. It sucks because the season's going on, and when the season's going on, you want to be a part of it. It's like waking up on Christmas and there's no presents under the tree. But it's what it is. It's an unfortunate circumstance. It sucks that it played out the way that it did, that it didn't happen months earlier so we could already be into the process of whoever the new coach is. But it is what it is. I hate saying that, but that's the reality. We're all smart enough to figure that out. If you still want to watch the games, watch the games. Bless you. I can't. I'm not interested. There is nothing to be learned from watching this group of players and an interim basketball coach. It's not interesting, unless for some reason it is, and I'll trust that Twitter will tell me as the game is going on, hey, something interesting is happening, maybe you want to tune in. Mobil 1 Full Synthetic Motor Oil helps extend engine life. Visit your local Jiffy Lube service center. Ask for Mobil 1. This is really cool. We do weekly NFL draft segments. As soon as the Ravens season ends, we start doing NFL draft coverage, and we cover the draft every week. And we'll start talking to prospects here. I think, in fact, tomorrow we'll have our first prospect of the season on the show. But we'll also do regular sort of generic draft segments every week. And our next guest is someone who once upon a time was responsible for having to listen. Like, the sound of my voice probably makes him cringe because he was once upon a time an intern here at Pressbox and had to listen to my stupid voice regularly while transcribing interviews to write stories at PressBoxOnline.com. He's gone on to do really well for himself, and he is now the draft analyst for CBSSports.com. He's Kyle Stackpole. He's with us on GCR. Kyle, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me on. And I really love my time as an intern. Your voice didn't bother me at all. I appreciated the interviews that you did. It made for a lot better stories. So it's cool that we can reconnect and talk about the NFL draft and the Ravens options at 14.
Very kind of you to say that, Kyle Stackpole. I would not. I hate transcribing with a passion inside of me that I cannot describe. And so because of that, I hate the sound of my own voice. Like, I hate transcribing my own interviews. I'm like, ugh, it's terrible. It's just my least favorite thing in the world. So the work that you guys do, and it's, we've had an incredible group over the years. It means a lot, and I always appreciate it. I'm really proud of you and the things that you're doing. So, yeah, let's talk about number 14. Let's talk about the Ravens. I saw your most recent mock draft at CBSSports.com. And I'm excited about it because, admittedly, I'm a Jordan Davis guy. Like, I see monster when I look at Jordan Davis. There are people that will say, I got a little bit of a concern about his conditioning and can he be on the field for every snap? And, yeah, he's a playmaker, but, Terrence Cody was a playmaker once upon a time. Why would you not be concerned about any of those things, and why do you think Jordan Davis is such a good fit for the Ravens at 14?
Yeah, I just think that all those concerns I understand, especially the conditioning, just based on his sheer size. But he's really just a freak in every sense. And I think that with the right coaching, and I think the Ravens are going to do a great job of that if he ends up going to Baltimore, then he's going to be someone that they're going to make sure he's in shape. And they're going to want to try to turn him into a three-down defensive tackle. So, he hasn't shown a bunch of ability as a pass rusher, although in the national title game he did have a sack, and he has shown glimpses of that. But I think with someone who is already so dominant against the run and someone who can just clog up all the running lanes basically with his size and really free up the linebackers to do what they do and make tackles for loss. I think that he can come in right away. He can, even if they decide to keep their Calais Campbell and a couple of the other veteran defensive linemen, he's someone who can step in and be a rotational guy, or if those guys leave, whether it be free agency or retirement or what have you, then he can come in right away and at least be a really good run stopper. And I think as time goes on, he can turn into someone that can help out with the interior pass rush, because that's something the Ravens really need to add as next year, as 2022 and beyond happens.
By the way, what you just brought up, Kyle Stackpole is with CBSSports.com. What you just brought up, Brandon Williams is a much maligned player here in Baltimore, and it's frustrating to me because Brandon Williams has been every time Brandon Williams doesn't play, you see how much worse this team is against the run. Like, he makes a massive difference against the run. The complaint is largely that Brandon Williams isn't Aaron Donald. Of course, we all know who is, right? Like, Aaron Donald is an all-time freak, is someone that is literally rewriting the history of the position that he plays. But to that point, you believe that Jordan Davis can be more than just a run stopper. He's someone that could be more impactful even than possibly, say, a Brandon Williams, who's been a solid player, has been.
Yeah, I think he can. I think it's going to take the correct development, and I think he would be in a good spot. I'm not going to say he's Aaron Donald because no one's Aaron Donald.
Right, of course
Aaron
not.
Donald has his skill set is just unbelievable. But I think with the baseline of him being a really good run defender, then, I mean, really anything he gives you as a pass rusher, I think would be somewhat of a bonus. But I think that he showed enough this season at Georgia where you could draft him and you can look at the tape and say, hey, we can develop him into more of a pass rusher, which if you have that sort of combination, then you're talking about a difference maker on the defensive line, a complete game changer on the defensive line if he develops a pass rushing skill set that's even better than adequate. So I think it's a really intriguing position at 14. I think Jordan Davis would be a solid choice. I think there's a couple other choices at other positions of need for the Ravens. So I think at 14, they might not get the top guys at certain positions, but I think if they're trying to draft the best guy available at a position of need, they're going to get someone they really like.
All right, let's talk a little bit about some of those other options. And I'm gonna pose this a certain way. In your mock draft, you have two quarterbacks. So one of the things about the Ravens have the 14th pick, but we know that they're not looking for a quarterback. So you really feel like they have the what pick? You have two quarterbacks going before the 14th pick. How do you see this falling? Like, do you see at some point there being movement and teams trying to move up to get one of these guys, or is the quarterback class as down as people are sort of describing it to be, that there's a chance it might not even be two? It might really only be, say, one quarterback who goes before the 14th pick.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. So for my mock draft, I didn't have any trades aside from the trades that have already happened, and
right.
So I stuck with the current draft order. But it's really a class where the Giants probably wouldn't want to have to use the number 5 pick or the number 7 pick on a quarterback just based on what's available, because there really aren't there's really not a top half of the first round, at least consensus quarterback out there. But so I could see the Giants, maybe they try to trade back. Maybe a couple other teams try to trade back. But I think there are enough teams, and I think that quarterback is such a premium position, and there's going to be so much pressure to, if they like someone, they're going to go get them, regardless of what their pick is. So I think with the Giants, with the Panthers, with potentially the Falcons, with the Broncos, depending on what happens in free agency, because there can be a ton of moving pieces, I think one way or another you're going to have at least one, probably two before the 14th pick. And Washington, I didn't even mention Washington. I have them drafting Matt Corral. I know a lot of people have them doing that as well. So I think in a traditional sense, there shouldn't be two QBs before the 14th pick, but just based on how important quarterback is and what teams are willing to do to make it seem like they found the quarterback of the future, I think you're going to have at least a couple in the first half of the first round.
All right, so let's talk about some of the other options. I think the first thing that jumps out for Ravens fans is the offensive tackle situation. It's just sort of unknown at the moment because Ronnie Stanley has missed the better part of 2 seasons, and you hope that he can be Ronnie Stanley again. The amount of money they're paying him, they kind of need him to be Ronnie Stanley again, but it's hard to plan around it at the moment. So tackle is one that jumps out. There are a bunch of names. Charles Cross from Mississippi State is one that everybody is hot and bothered by. Will he still be there at that point? The kid from Northern Iowa, whose name is Tyler Penning, correct, is his name?
Trevor Penning.
Trevor
yeah.
Penning, thank you. That jumps out at me. How do you look at this group of tackles? Is that surefire guy that could be there at 14 and really is, in your mind, a 5 to 10 year answer for an NFL team at the tackle position?
Yeah, so I think best case scenario at 14 would be for one of the top 3 tackles to fall to Baltimore, and you mentioned one of them, Charles Cross from Mississippi State. You also have Evan Neal from Alabama and Ikam Ekwonu from NC State. I mean, Evan Neal might be the first pick in the draft, so he's basically out. Ikam Ekwonu, he's being looked at as a top 5 pick, and so really it could be Charles Cross. And I think if Charles Cross is there at 14, the Ravens should hop on the phone a couple seconds into their pick and say, this is who we're taking. But if not, I think another option for the Ravens would be Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M. Now, this mostly depends on if they believe he can definitely be a tackle for them, be a left tackle, because he does have a lot of versatility. He was an All-American this past year. He started 12 games at 4 different positions. And if they think he's a tackle prospect and they can make him into a, like you said, starting tackle for the next 10 years, I think that's someone that is going to be really intriguing there. A couple of other names to watch, and you mentioned one of them. You have Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa and Bernard Raymond out of Central Michigan, who's really interesting. He grew up in Austria. He was playing tight end 2 years ago, and now he has a legit chance to be a first-round pick. And these are 2 players that we haven't seen a ton of. Yes, Raymond had played at Central Michigan, but Penning played in the FCS in Northern Iowa. So I think for Ravens fans that really love to follow the draft and they want to follow the Senior Bowl, those are really 2 guys to look out for, because I think depending on that, how they do at the Senior Bowl, that's really going to help their draft stock. And a lot of people are going to be talking about them going into the combine and going into the draft as a potential first-round pick.
We saw some pleasant things from Odafe Owe this season, but nothing that makes it certain that we know that he's a high-level pass rusher for the next 5 to 10 years. Is there someone – this seems like a weird draft for edge rushers, Kyle. Is there someone to you as a true edge rusher that would make sense with the 14th pick?
Yeah, I think it's tough to have the 14th pick when you talk about edge rushers, because you have 3 guys that are almost assuredly going to go in the top 10. I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau and Aiden Hutchinson, they're going to go in the top 3. Then I don't see George Karlaftis out of Purdue falling past 10. I think if he were to fall to 14, that would be a big get. He is clearly the 3rd best pass rusher at the very least. And depending on what he's able to do, he could end up being the best one. He's just being viewed as behind those other 2 guys right now. So I think he's someone that he would have to fall, but someone who I think would be available, and it was actually Hutchinson's teammate at Michigan, would be David Ajabo. And he's someone who came out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
Didn't play as a freshman. He saw 26 defensive snaps as a sophomore. And then this season, he goes ahead, gets 11 sacks, 12 tackles for loss, 5 forced fumbles. He's someone similar to Owe. I mean, he had more collegiate production than him, but just a raw, freakishly athletic guy who some of the plays he makes, it looks like he's ready to be a Pro Bowl edge rusher right now, but then the consistency is really not there. So I think it's someone where the Ravens have already drafted Owe last year. He showed that he could pop as an edge rusher. If they like this guy Ajabo enough, it could be worth having him join Owe and have them be the bookends on the line and coming off the edge. So I think he's an interesting guy as well. But like you said, it is a weird draft in terms of top end talent for edge rusher because at 14 you're probably not going to get those 3 premium guys.
Why is it, by the way, Kyle, that people seem to be so split on Ajabo? Like, you'll see people who are like, this guy's not he's not a first round pick, like, and then there are other people who are like, I love this guy. I'd take him in the top half of the first round. Why is there such a split on him?
I think it might just really be his rise from obscurity, and people they see the production, they see the tape, but it's like, okay, but why was he only playing 26 snaps the year before? So I think there's hesitancy, and I think as the draft process goes along and as more people dig into him, I think more likely than not, you're going to have more people saying this is a guy who should be a top 20 pick versus this guy is not a first rounder. So I think it's more just people coming around to him, especially because he was the number 2 behind Hutchinson, who was so incredibly good this year and is going to be one of the biggest talking points of the draft leading up to it. So I think he's really taken a back seat, but I think as more people dig in, people are going to start to agree on him being a first rounder.
All right, before I let you go, Kyle Stackpole, CBSSports.com. The Ravens, throughout their history, every time we've done these segments, we've been leading off with wide receivers because they've always needed wide receivers. This is like the first year ever that the priority doesn't seem to be wide receiver. That being said, as much as we like Rashad Bateman, it's not a certainty that the Ravens are going to pay money to keep Hollywood Brown around long term. And I wonder, and I'll even throw in tight end, for as good as Mark Andrews is, we know the Ravens have been better when they've had multiple tight ends on the field if they're sticking with the Greg Roman system moving forward. Is there someone that you would say, if this wide receiver or, I don't know who it would be at tight end, is sitting there at 14, I kind of don't care what you think your needs are. That player is a player you have to grab because they're that good and there's too much value there.
Definitely. And I know the Ravens want me to, throw out a couple of names because just following skill players throughout the draft process is awesome. And the Ravens have gotten fortunate in that sense the past couple of years in that they have drafted these wide receivers. And that's exciting to draft a wide receiver, whether or not they've been as productive as initially hoped.
Yeah.
But I just think for this draft, I don't see it.
Okay.
For most drafts, most mock drafts have, and most draft analysts are projecting Garrett Wilson to be the number 1 guy selected. You also have Chris Olave, both out of Ohio State. And I just think that they're just not Jamar Chase, or they're not even Devonta Smith. I just think, or Jalen Waddle. I just think that this class, it is still deep, not as deep as the past couple of years, but it's deep. But I just don't think it has the same high-end talent that it had last year.
Okay.
Because, you saw from the Bengals, they clearly needed an offensive lineman last year, and they had Penei Sewell sitting in their lap, and they decided to go with Jamar Chase, and see how that worked
out. Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah, but that's just not it this year. And I just think with the quality of prospects that are going to be available at positions of need for Baltimore, it's just going to make a lot more sense to go with one of those guys, and then maybe day 2, early day 3, you pick up a receiver for depth that can maybe he comes in and surprises and he's better than what people initially thought. But I just don't see a wide receiver. I would say the only guy that potentially could turn into that, or at least in my opinion right now, would be Jameson Williams. He's just
okay.
What he was able to do at Alabama this year was really impressive. But I think with him, he kind of came out of nowhere too, and then I think with the injury, that's going to hurt his draft stock.
Yep.
But I think he's someone that can turn into a Pro Bowl wide receiver pretty consistently just based on his skill set. But I don't think that's someone where you stop and say, yeah, let's just throw everything out and draft this guy in the first round. So unfortunately, if Ravens fans listening want a pass catcher, whether that be receiver or tight end, they'll probably wait until day 2 or early day 3.
Maybe they could take Chigaquonquo in the 4th round. Maybe that could be the play for Maryland fans and Ravens fans at some point.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I'd be okay with that.
I like Chig a lot, man. I really like, and he's a great story on top of being a good football player. At Kyle F. Stackpole is how you follow him on Twitter. CBSSports.com is where you see his stuff. Kyle, are you just going to be doing regular mock drafts? Are you going to be doing some more in-depth stuff? What's the plan for you during draft season?
Yeah, so I'll be doing a mock draft, I think, every 2 weeks for now. It might ramp up as we get closer to the combine, and then obviously after that with the draft. And we'll see. There's some stuff in the works, so still working through it with our draft team, and we have three draft analysts that do an incredible job. They come out with mock drafts every single week. They've been doing that since the season started. So I just think whether you're looking for the Ravens pick or Washington pick, I know I'm tooting the company horn here, but head on over to CBS, and there's a lot of good draft content, and it's an exciting time of year because the Ravens are in a good spot in that it was disappointing, but a lot of it I think came down to injuries, and I think that with free agency and with the draft, if they get the right players, then you're right back to talking about, okay, let's see if this team can win the Super Bowl. So I think it's still an exciting time.
I agree. They very much have that nucleus and can try to run it back next year. I'm with you on that. Kyle, appreciate it, man. Proud of everything you're doing. Let's be in touch. Let's do this again before the draft, all right?
Definitely. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Kyle Stackpole, man. It's very cool. Kyle was an intern here a few years back and has sort of risen, as made some local journalism stops, and now has this great gig at CBSSports.com, and I'm very happy for him. And I love Jordan Davis. I can't hide from it. I love Jordan Davis. This is the problem with the tackles. It's hard to fall in love with a tackle, right? Like, it's hard. You got to really be into the draft to be able to tell me why you like one tackle more than another tackle, unless it's somebody, Penei Sewell a year ago was like such a freak that everybody could see it. Short of something like that, you got to really sell me on why you like one tackle more than the other. I've looked at the tackles a little bit, and I get why. I said to Ken a week ago, I'm in a weird spot with the tackles because, I don't think this team has a path to doing what they need to do unless Ronnie Stanley is Ronnie Stanley again. And if he is, and Patrick McCary can be your right tackle, I don't know that you have a need at the tackle position necessarily. Now, it's a good problem to have because if you find a tackle, you can play him at right tackle if, Ronnie Stanley's your guy. Of course, Juwan James factors into this in some way, we think. We have every reason to believe he might. And Patrick McCary, we believe, has the flexibility to play another position. A lot of people think you can just make him your center again if you allow Bradley Bozeman to depart. And I hear you. I don't know. I don't know. I think there are a lot of people that have just sort of said it's tackle or bust for the 14th pick, and I just don't know that I agree with that. I think there is a scenario, there's a solution for this offensive line that doesn't involve drafting a tackle in the first round. And part of that is because in my heart of hearts, I don't think you can go where it is that you want to go if Ronnie Stanley's not Ronnie Stanley next year. He just takes up so much of your cap that I think you're hard-pressed to find a way to solve the puzzle without Ronnie Stanley becoming at least something close to Ronnie Stanley again.
Right.
So you find one. If you got the guy, you got the guy. Great, right? But it's more important to me that Ronnie Stanley be the guy than that the 14th pick be the guy. And I think there's a bunch of different ways. It's a bummer that there isn't. It's sort of a consensus that there really isn't an edge rusher that's a great option with the 14th pick. So it's part of the problem.
Wink doesn't emphasize sacks anyway. So.
Yeah, but that's it's a bigger issue. Like it would almost make it better for someone to be such a natural one-on-one winner, right? Like you're so overwhelming in that department that despite the fact that you're not being used to just go get the passer, you can go get the passer anyway, right? Like it's a whole different conversation for a different day. It's sort of a what it is. I keep using that phrase, but it's the reality of the circumstances. Today's show is also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy Football. Playing Underdog, you're having fun. Maybe you're winning some money. You feel like you're betting, despite the fact that you can't really bet on your phone or on the computer yet in the state of Maryland. But you can play Underdog Fantasy Football, play those player props, those parlays.
You can still play the weekly and daily traditional fantasy contests, and it's not just for football. When football season's over, there'll be basketball games. There are basketball games. There hopefully will be some baseball games, although who knows? Not because of Underdog, because of baseball. Be nice. Be really nice if you can get that figured out. But it's all available, Underdog Fantasy, UnderdogFantasy.com, or download the Underdog app. When you make your first deposit up to $100, use the code PRESSBOX, and we will match it with free money for you to play with Underdog Fantasy Football. I'll throw out the Would You Rather Wednesday scenarios when we come back in. Drew Forrester is going to join us here in a bit as well. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Duffy's Garage is a family-owned and operated car care facility in beautiful Baldwin, Maryland. An authorized Maryland inspection station and Napa Pro Care Center with ASE-certified techs. Tell them that Glenn Clark sent you and receive 10% off your service with a max discount of $150. You gotta trust where you take your car, so take it to where I take mine. Duffy's Garage in Baldwin. Duffy'sGarageMD.com.
From all of the biggest games to the smallest events, make every bet worth your while at MyBookie. Start by doubling your first deposit instantly with MyBookie's first deposit bonus up to $1,000. Double your money before you even place a bet, and all you have to do is sign up and deposit using the exclusive promo code PRESSBOX at MyBookie.ag. If your first deposit is $100, MyBookie adds $100 so you can start with $200 to play with. If your first deposit is $1,000, MyBookie adds $1,000 so you can start with $2,000 to play with. With tons of great games and prop bets to take advantage of this week, there is truly something for everyone. Don't wait any longer. Head to MyBookie today to redeem your double deposit bonus so you can start winning big today. That's promo code PRESSBOX to receive double your first deposit instantly in your account. No hassle, no wait. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
It's another cold winter here in Baltimore, but this time there's no hot stove to warm you up. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, and while there may be no activity in the world of baseball, I'll still be here every week with my co-host Zach Goodman to give you all the latest in the CBA negotiations as teams look to get back on the field in time for spring training. You can watch us live every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or facebook.com/PressBoxSports and listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. So tune in every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon for the latest in baseball coverage right here on the Bat Around.
Glory Days Grill's winter seasonal menu is back with comfort classics like their house-made meatloaf and short-rib grilled cheese. It also features the center-cut sirloin with grilled shrimp, the char-grilled pork tenderloin, grilled meatloaf sandwich, smoky thigh wings with Alabama barbecue sauce, and a Brussels and bacon appetizer. All of these items pair well with Devil's Backbone 8-Point IPA or their anniversary IPA brewed by Devil's Backbone. And try their seasonal cocktails, Blood Orange Bourbon Cider, Apple Ginger Mule, and Captain's Hot Cider. Find out more and get your order in today at GloryDaysGrill.com. Great food, good sports.
Window Depot Baltimore provides the highest quality Pro-Via windows, doors, and siding for all budgets. The best is finally affordable. Call them today for a free in-home consultation at 410-941-3499. They also offer Zoom and FaceTime consultations in an effort to practice social distancing. A proud sponsor of the Tyus Bowser Show, you can find out more at WindowDepotBaltimore.com.
We can't imagine why you'd want to, but you can watch GCR live. It's at Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. And try to guess whether these guys are wearing any pants.
All right, back in here on GCR. Thanks to Kyle Stackpole for hopping on with us. That was very cool for me. That's a real sense of pride that I have when I see someone who was grinding, trying to work their way through, and is now doing something significant in the world of sports media. That's awesome, man. So good for him, and we'll do that again as draft season rolls on. We will do weekly draft segments as we've done for years because that's what we have. I promise you, I'd much rather be talking about preparation for a playoff game this weekend, but that is not what's happening, and so this is what we got. It's just sort of what it is situation. All right, it's Would You Rather Wednesday. The scenarios are now up, both on Facebook and on Twitter. You can go check them out right now at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter, Facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. 3 scenarios as always. Would You Rather Wednesday. I have a new batch of Glory Days Grill gift certificates coming in. They're not here yet. So if you're the winner today, you're going to have to hold tight because it's going to take maybe a few days before I have them and I'll be able to send them out to you. But The winner will get a $25 gift card to Glory Days Grill. I just need to get the new batch of gift cards in before I can start sending them out. We're not going to do them right now, but just so you're thinking about it, get the juices flowing. The Would You Rather Wednesday scenarios for this week. Number 1, would you rather the Buccaneers and Tom Brady win another GD Super Bowl this season, or Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are so good that the Bengals win the Super Bowl, therefore announcing themselves as a potential dynasty threat within the AFC North? Another one for Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, or Joe Burrow wins the Super Bowl in just his second season, and he and Jamar Chase appear to be so good that, holy crap, they might be a problem for a long time to come. Speaking of which, I have another column up today at PressBoxOnline.com. I try to do this every year. Once the Ravens are out, I attempt to pick through. And by the way, this is one of the lengthier columns I do. This is damn near 2,000 words. I try to pick through every team that's left and eliminate them one by one until I find the team that we all should try to embrace as Baltimore sports fans, the team that's the most palatable, the one that we should sort of adopt for a little while to make watching games more fun. You probably know who my ultimate answer was if you've been listening to the show every day, but I would go read it because it's a whole lot of fun eliminating teams one by one. And I will give you that these are the first 2 teams that I knocked off the list. Of the 8 teams that are left, the first 2 teams I knocked off were the Buccaneers and the Bengals for these reasons that are pretty obvious. So go read that column today. It's up at PressBoxOnline.com. Number 2. This requires you to be someone who cares about Ozark. If you're not someone who cares about Ozark, this probably won't work for you. I would encourage you to go watch Ozark. It's
pretty damn incredible.
It's really good. It's really, really good. It ain't Breaking Bad, but it ain't far off. It's really good. The final season starts this weekend, of course, on Netflix.
Two-parter.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I don't like it either. Game of Thrones did that.
Somebody was talking. I think like Patrick Queen was tweeting about that recently. I don't care for that. If this is the type of show that you are, just give it to me, right? Like I actually, in a weird way, I think it's because of my love of network sitcoms. I don't necessarily need to have a binge of a full. Like I can do the bit where I got to think about it for a few days and wait another week until I watch another episode. But if you're going to do this, do it all. Splitting it up, like a 2-parter of the final. Ugh, don't care for that.
Like, how is this even the final season then? Why wouldn't the second part be the final?
Well, because it's one season. It's all one. Well, I mean, like the regular TV season is like 20 episodes, man. Like if they do 20 episodes, not with Ozark. No, Ozark is not 20 episodes. But network or I think Breaking Bad had long seasons. They were not 10-episode seasons.
No, that's because that was on network television.
It wasn't on network television.
Not
it was on
television. It was on television.
Yeah. Anyway, the final season of Ozark begins this weekend. None of this is a spoiler alert because I have no idea what happens in the final season. Would you rather it end in a Breaking Bad-esque type of way with Marty dying but protecting Ruth and his children in the process? Or no, Marty doesn't deserve to die either? Just think about it.
I'm not going to answer. I'm just saying Marty is like the perfect name for a Jason Bateman character.
Really is, right? Like very much sort of the way that it always should have. Marty Bird was a perfectly like it's dull. It's like, and it's what makes Jason Bateman so good is he plays this character. And then number 3, would you rather the only significant thing the Ravens do in free agency is re-signing Bradley Bozeman long term, or the only significant thing they do in free agency is signing Chandler Jones to a significant contract? All right? Those are your 3 scenarios for Would You Rather Wednesday. Get your responses in at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter or Facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. You can also put it in the comments on the YouTube, as John Keller was lamenting the performance of Maryland basketball in those comments on YouTube. You can put it up there. We'll get to your responses for Would You Rather Wednesday. Look, I get it. Again, if you are invested, if you're watching every game, and I talk about this with the Orioles all the time. I am not at an age where fandom is more important than other things in my life, right? So, yes, I love the Orioles, but once I know what it is, I can separate myself because I love my kids more, right? Like I love a good book. I'm not knocking anybody else who's that way. I'm saying for me, I'm not that guy. Once I know what I'm dealing with, I can separate myself from it. I can say, this is not a good way for me to spend my time. Last night, when I had, 1, a significant number of tennis bets on the table, and 2, there were Denis Shapovalov and Soonwoo Kwon were playing an amazing tennis match. Why would I choose to watch the Maryland basketball game? Why would that be the direction that I would want to go? I get it. It doesn't mean that I don't love Maryland basketball. I'm not interested. Or I'm not a fan or anything along those lines. I know what I'm watching. It ain't real. There's nothing there. There's no, for the guy that always yells about me, there's no there. There's some guy that's a big fan of mine that always gets mad whenever I say that. I just don't need to spend time with it. Paul from Ovilando said, this Terps team is probably the most painful to watch for me since the last Bob Wade team of 88-89 that finished 9-20. The Gary teams that were on probation back in 90 and 90 or through 92 with the Wizard Matt Rowe and Chris Kerwin were more enjoyable to watch. Yeah. I mean, yeah. 100%. Because you thought there was something building. And maybe next year Maryland might be bad, but more compelling to watch because this new coach brings in some recruit that he was going to bring to wherever. Let's just say it's Andy Enfield, and he has a player that he's planning to bring to USC, and instead that player says, well, I'm going to go to Maryland because I really like the coach, and that's a player that's exciting to watch and might be there for a couple of years and might be a central figure of a team that can compete in 2 to 3 years. Then they're more compelling to watch because of it. That's why the early Gary teams are more compelling to watch, because Walt Williams was a figure that could turn the program around. This, again, with the only exception of Julian Reese, and I don't know if Julian Reese is going to stick around or not, but there's at least some reason to think he could. What are you watching? I have no personal beef with Fats Russell, but Fats Russell he's just here. He's just a mercenary. What is it? What is supposed to be compelling for me to watch night in and night out? Which is why it's easier for me to separate. It's easier for me to just say, it's a bad way for me to spend my time. There's other things I can do. Anything else is better than this. So, I just don't do it. This is the reality. I just don't watch because of that. And if you do, I'm not knocking you. Like, I get it. Yeah, it's a lot of people, you're just so used to it. It's what I've done. Whenever Maryland basketball is played, I watch Maryland basketball games. Whenever the Orioles play, I watch the Orioles. It's my accompaniment for a summer evening. I get it. That's fine. It's fine. It might be why it is that you tell me, you respond and say, I don't watch Ozark. I encourage you. Instead of watching Maryland basketball, watch Ozark. It's more entertaining. You'll get more bang for your buck when you sit down and watch Ozark this weekend than watching Maryland basketball. All right, today's show brought to you by CCBC. If you need to hone your computer skills to boost your career, or maybe you want an IT certification, CCBC Continuing Education has the courses and programs you need for a career in the computer field, and it's all tuition-free. From the basics to specialized training, we have the classes you need, from hardware to programming to cybersecurity and so much more. It's your choice. It's your career. Call 443-840-4700 or visit ccbcmd.edu/computer training to find out more. Responses that are already starting to come in for Would You Rather Wednesday. When Drew hops on here in a minute, we'll pose these to him. If you just haven't watched Ozark, you don't need to respond. I promise you don't need to respond. David, as much as I love Bradley Bozeman, seems you know what? I guess we should do this one at a time. Man, is Drew? Are we good with Drew? Is he gonna?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you go ahead? Go ahead and try to give him a call. And that'll make it a little bit easier to do this because we can all kind of talk about it at the same time. Get your responses in, however, at Would You Rather Wednesday at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter or Facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio, as we are at that portion of the program where we're getting into Would You Rather Wednesday. Drew Forrester, Drew'sMorningDish.com, joins us now. What's going on, sir? How are you?
I'm okay. all is well.
Are you sure? You seem a little.
I wasn't expecting that question from you.
Oh, no, because normally I don't care. Right, correct. I don't actually care.
Well,
it just
wasn't that.
It seemed like what you're supposed to do every now and then is check in.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah,
right. It's going okay. Now that I think about it, it's going okay.
Yeah, right. Hey,
I'm getting a little bummed out about all this cold weather, but other than that,
I mean, it sucks. It's awful. It's just awful, man. Like
right.
It's when you know you have things you need to do, but you're like, I'm just not going to do them because I'm not walking out of my house. Like, I'm not going to do that thing. I'll deal with it next week because I'm not walking out of my house currently. It's not something I'm going to choose to do. We're doing Would You Rather Wednesday, so let's start with that, then we'll get to whatever you had. Number one, would you rather the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady win another Super Bowl this season?
Yes.
Or stop. Or the Cincinnati Bengals win one. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are so good, they end up winning the damn Super Bowl, and they announce themselves as a potential dynasty threat within the AFC North.
Oh, man. Oh, boy. Well, I probably would go with the Brady thing. I mean, what's the difference between 7 and 8?
I mean, it's a fair. Other than you have to watch it, right? Like when it's all said.
No, you don't.
Well,
no, you
okay,
don't.
Fine, but
the
you're
only
going.
thing you got to watch is the halftime show.
Okay, but you're going to. Come on, man.
Right.
Like you're going to watch, and watching it again is no fun. There's no joy in watching Tom Brady win another Super Bowl. There are other storylines. We're like, well, this could be interesting. This is compelling. This is a fan base that's been long suffering. There's nothing about watching Tom Brady and the Buccaneers win a Super Bowl that you're like, this is going to be entertaining for me in any way.
I guess. I mean, I don't want. I'm with you. I don't want them to win. But if you're giving me the option of them winning or the Bengals winning and gaining all this confidence and full steam ahead, I think I'm going to pass on that one, and I'm going to watch it to see if Brady gets number 8, but I'm really going to watch it to see if Snoop and Dre do the old, I'm representing for the gangsters all across the world, hitting them corners and them lolos, girl.
Yeah, 100%. And they will, for what it's worth.
Well, they better.
Yeah,
if I don't hear that from them, then I am turning off the set.
I mean, I assure you, they will. There's no question. There's no question about that.
There are some lyrics that Snoop can't repeat.
Well, by the way, this is going to be one of the most uncomfortable because anymore, what they just do is say, "Go ahead and rap it, and we'll just sort of bleep it out."
Yeah, but you never know.
That's what they did with who was it that performed? Who was the rapper that was out there with the Maroon 5 a couple years ago? Travis Scott, right? That was who it was.
Okay.
They literally just were like, "Go ahead and say it," and it was just a bleep. The entire it was just audio cut for like the entire performance. Like, what is this? That is definitely that is definitely going to be a problem. Like,
by the way, I'll give you a little Drew's Morning Dish tidbit. Early, 3 days in advance.
Boy, I can't believe I'm getting this lucky.
You're not going to have to worry about Tampa Bay being in the Super Bowl.
Oh, you got a funny feeling about the Los Angeles Rams, huh?
I do, despite Matt Stafford. I do.
But you're going with the Rams are more palatable than the Bengals to win this, or the Buccaneers are more palatable.
Yeah, I would go that I would rather see Brady. Like I first of all, I can come up with several redeeming things about Tampa Bay winning. I like Bruce Arians. I have friends that live in Tampa. Like, I can come up with all kinds of cool ways for they win one without Antonio Brown. I love it. There's a whole bunch of ways I can come up with that. I don't know that I don't know that you want. They're already confident enough in Cincinnati.
Oh yeah.
Without winning. Imagine what they would be like if they won.
Paul, what about you?
So for me, all right. So I look at Joe Burrow. And I see a quarterback who I think is destined to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But maybe it's when he inevitably forces a trade out of Cincinnati.
Okay.
With
he ends up in Arizona or something. Yeah.
With Tom Brady, if he gets I'm past hating Tom Brady because I think he's just been so.
We're gonna disagree on that one.
Dude, how can you hate Tom Brady when you watch those crypto commercials?
Stop.
I can so definitely
still hate.
It's
still the guy that slid spikes first into Ed Reed. Like, let's not pretend.
Cares? It's football.
Stop
they're
it.
supposed
Ed Reed is
they're
my
supposed to
favorite
slide
player
spikes
of
up into people.
They're supposed to try to kill each other. They're supposed to try to put spikes in the other person's groin. Like, that's the way it's.
Hey, I'm interested in a trade.
Yeah.
Hey, did you hear Tom? You hear Tom's coming back? yeah, I'm looking for a trade. Tom's coming back. Tom's coming back. I'm not that kind of trade. I mean, I'm trading crypto.
All right. Yeah, you have a problem. You're way too. You're way
You
too
don't think
into
it's
that.
funny?
You're way too into
If
that.
Tom Brady wins number 8, A, he doubles up any other quarterback in history.
Yes.
B, maybe that's enough for him to say, hey,
He's done?
I'm done.
No, it's the exact opposite.
Oh, no. No.
It's
He
further
is not
fuel.
leaving. By the way,
Stop.
if he gets to 8, he's staying until he gets 10.
100%. And
Right.
I am 100% convinced that he has decided in his mind that he
Right.
wants to be the first quarterback that played at 50 years old. I am
No doubt.
I am 100%
No doubt.
convinced that
No
he
doubt.
is hell-bent on hanging into the league until he gets 50 years old to be able to say that.
30
he did,
years in the league. That's
No doubt.
I'm telling you,
There are only 2 things I can tell you that I know for sure about right now. 1,000,000%, Glenn is right. Brady's going to try to play till he's 50. And number 2, there is almost no question in my mind at all that Roethlisberger will start next year for Denver.
I don't think it'll be Denver. I think
You don't?
I think if it's somewhere. Dude, we've been talking about this for a month now. Every time he used this word salad to talk about his future, he was telling you he's desperate. He knows it's not Pittsburgh. Like they've had that conversation in Pittsburgh where they've said, "Dude, we're giving you one more year, but then that's it. Like we have to find a real quarterback at some point. We can't keep doing this."
It's the whole Phillip Rivers thing all over again.
Correct. It's exactly that, right? And Phillip Rivers had more to offer at that point than Tom.
Yeah, Phillip
Ben
Rivers was
Roethlisberger.
still
Yeah.
somewhat serviceable when he played
Correct.
in Indianapolis.
Ben
I would agree with that.
Roethlisberger, it's been over. So he knows that it's not Pittsburgh any longer. And so those emotions that night were real for him, right? Like it was really emotional because he knows it's not going to be Pittsburgh anymore. But he is praying, to your point, he's praying that it's going to be somewhere else. He's praying that one of these teams can't get a real quarterback. Like they're trying to get Russell Wilson, they're trying to get Aaron Rodgers. They can't get a real quarterback, and they're left with they don't like the quarterbacks in the draft. Hell, maybe our defense is good enough that we can let Ben Roethlisberger come here and survive that, which is an insane idea. It's terrible. I mean, Denver is absolutely better off, being the team that takes a chance on Kirk Cousins than they are,
100%.
like being the Ben Roethlisberger team. That being said, if there is one team that can F this up and convince themselves they should sign Ben Roethlisberger, you know who it is.
DC.
1,000%, he is the Week 1 quarterback in Landover next season.
No doubt. Right.
They're the one team that can screw this up so much that Ben Roethlisberger is somehow their quarterback next year. They absolutely are capable of doing it. But I'm still going to bet against even them. I'm going to bet against it. But if someone would, it's definitely Washington. I'm assuming that you have never watched the television program Ozark, Drew. It's not something. So we'll skip that one for now. We'll get back to it.
Okay.
Number 3, would you rather the only significant thing the Ravens do in the offseason is sign Bradley Bozeman for real money? Or the only significant thing they do in the offseason is bring in Chandler Jones for real money?
1,000,000% Chandler Jones.
Wow.
With all due respect to Bradley Bozeman.
It doesn't sound like it's all due respect to Bradley Bozeman.
No,
it is.
I mean, but I'm going to just say this. Well, I do understand the value of having a good center, and you do have to have a good center. And I think there's a argument that a large part of what the Ravens saw in 2012 was due to Matt Burke. Like, I think that he made a significant contribution to them. I get it. Center is important, but you can find one of those. You got to really work hard to find somebody that can go chase the quarterback.
Okay. Here's why this is actually interesting to me, right? Because I definitely have been a Chandler Jones guy for some time. But after week 1 of this season, Chandler Jones basically had the same number of sacks as Justin Houston did.
Yeah, I know. I mean, right. And again, there's another
he had a massive
example too.
week 1. He had 5 sacks in week 1, and then he had 5.5 sacks the rest of the season.
Right. And if you look at the, it's funny, right? These edge rusher guys turn out to be a lot like running backs. They just all of a sudden they're just not any good anymore. Like they were really good. Did you see the All or Nothing on the Cardinals that's on Amazon Prime?
I didn't. I did not watch that.
Okay, so I can't believe you'd sit there with your underwear on watching that.
Why?
Or off for that matter.
Wait a second. Why do you think that would be something that I would care about that much?
Because you all have always had an affinity for all these Arizona teams that have been terrible.
No. I like the Coyotes and the Suns. Those are the teams that I like.
Well, they only have two. Well, I guess they have four.
What are you saying?
Yeah, right. They brought in. It was the year.
And by the way, the
brought
Suns aren't terrible. I don't know if you paid attention.
Well, they have been.
Well, they were. They were quite terrible,
right.
and then they went from being the worst team in basketball to being the best team in the West in all of about a year and a half.
Right. They did the year that they did the All or Nothing was the year they brought Freeney in.
Okay.
And
Jesus, I forgot that was a thing.
Part of one of the episodes focused solely on them bringing him in.
Okay.
And how he, I'm doing the announcer voice now. And when the Cardinals needed defensive help, there was one guy that they all agreed could help them. And then they show Freeney getting out of a van or something, right?
Okay.
And by the end of the year, he wasn't even playing.
Yeah, he was done. 100%. Well,
yeah,
okay. All right. Here, we're gonna do a Patrick Stevens-like game for this. Hang on. Wait. After the Colts, there were 5 teams that Dwight Freeney played for. 5.
Right.
Hang on a second. One of them we know is the Cardinals. Can between the two of you get the other 4 teams that Dwight Freeney played for?
I don't know any other team.
Didn't he play in Tennessee?
Nope. Sure didn't.
Minnesota?
No. I don't remember any of these. None. 0.
No. I know who he played for.
Yeah.
He played for the Falcons.
He did play for the Falcons. That's true.
He played for...
Drew's trying to figure out how quickly he can pull up Wikipedia right now.
No. I know he played for the Falcons. Didn't he play for the Lions?
He ended his career in Detroit.
Right.
Sure.
You were about to say the Chargers, and I vaguely remember
the Chargers. Well, he spent 2 seasons with the Chargers, and I have a vague memory.
He played for the Cardinal. I mean, he played for the Lions.
Yep. He finished his career.
Played. Trying to remember, he went Arizona, went Indianapolis. Then you said he went to the Chargers. Then he was done. Then he came back and played Arizona. Played 11, 12, 15 games for them because he came in late in the year, middle of the year, early in the year. But he came in.
He came in the middle of the year. He probably didn't play 15 games.
No, he came in into the season. I guess is what I meant to say.
Right.
Played in Atlanta, and I know he played in Detroit. I don't remember where else.
Seattle was the other stop for Dwight Freeney during the course of his career.
Gotcha.
I do not. I have so.
But again,
this was only 5 years ago.
He lost it, right? And I just think there are, to your point about Chandler Jones, it does seem to happen that way a lot. They're like running backs. They were really good. Now they're not good.
All right. I think there's something to be said for that. And I don't know if Chandler Jones is only 31, right? Like he's not. There's a difference to me between being 31 and being 35. You know what I mean? Like we're at 35. Stop. What are you doing? But
right.
There is an odd part of me that wonders if you're making the wrong bet on Chandler Jones at 31 years old in a Wink Martindale defense.
Okay. I wouldn't disagree with that. I guess the other question is, it is kind of hard, and I'm not picking on you when I say this, it is kind of hard to separate your meaning your affection for Bozeman and what he's done in the community.
I disagree with that. I like. Don't get me wrong. I love Bradley and Nicky, and I love what they do. But I would be very capable if I didn't think he was a high level player. I would be utterly capable of saying that.
Well, right. I'm not sure it's about that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, would you be better served letting him go on and get his whatever he's going to get, the Ryan Jensen deal that he might get somewhere?
Yeah.
And draft the Iowa kid, or keep him around, overpay him? Because let's be honest,
there's going to be a market for him. Yeah,
you're going to You're going to have to overpay him. Now, could he? And I'm just making up numbers because this could be totally off. Would he take $52 million from the Ravens instead of $58 from the Jets? Maybe.
Right.
But,
maybe.
But he's not taking $42 million from the Ravens turning down $58 from the Jets.
Correct. That part is true.
Someone's going to have to overpay him, and the Ravens might have to overpay him. They might not have to totally overpay, but they might have to come close.
If I were you, I would just throw that one away. I would maybe not use overpay.
Okay, well, you know what I mean.
Because it might be how we describe your health issues in the coming year.
You know what I mean. So, I don't know.
I get what you're saying.
I don't know that I see the sense ever in overpaying for a center.
I know.
I understand they're valuable.
Right.
Get it. Agree with it. Check the box. Totally get it. Don't know that you should overpay for them.
I know what you're saying, and I'm using words I don't use often. I don't think you're wrong.
We better record that.
The weird part about it being, like, we also know he was a very high level. He was the best pulling guard in football a season ago, right? Like, he is a valuable commodity for an offensive line if he's healthy. And, there's nothing that says that there's a reason to be fearful about that. And I think the other point is that you got to pay somebody, right? Like, the cap is going up. And I know that it's easy to say, well, yeah, but Lamar Jackson's going to take a lot of that. Sure, but not all of it. And if, for example, the choice was between paying Bradley Bozeman or paying Hollywood Brown long term, at the moment, which one of those two things are you doing?
Okay. I mean, now that argument, if you want to just say, re-sign Bozeman and give him a bunch of money, re-sign Hollywood and give him a bunch of money, now that's really a debate.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we can argue about.
I think it's tough because I think I would.
Now that we can argue about.
While oddly,
I haven't seen anything in Hollywood Brown that tells me, and somebody might say make the same argument about Bozeman. I haven't seen anything in Hollywood Brown that tells me if he's not back, your team is wrecked.
I don't. Boy, this is tough. I
haven't seen any evidence at all that would tell me you're in trouble if Hollywood Brown's not back.
I hear you, and I think you're right to some extent, but I also think we're being dismissive about how productive he's being as a whole. And I think part of that lines up with my fear about the Ravens and wide receivers over the years. I don't think that Hollywood Brown is a $20 million a year player, but do I yet have faith?
I can tell you he's definitely not a $20 million.
Right, but do I have faith in what the Ravens are doing at wide receiver if it ain't Hollywood Brown? This to me is not dissimilar to what the Browns are dealing with at quarterback, where it's easy for all of us to say, why in the F would you be spending money on Baker Mayfield? But there is a little bit of an internal, okay, we know he's not as good as these other guys, but if it ain't him, who is it? Because look at who they have trotted out at the quarterback position in their history. Who is their quarterback if it ain't Baker Mayfield? So, sure, very simple for us from afar to say, dude, there's no way you can pay Baker Mayfield that money. That's nuts. But for people that are closer to it, he's
the best quarterback they've had times 10.
But it's not even close. Like, it's not even there's no one.
Right.
The second best quarterback of the Browns, of this era of the Browns.
Now,
is,
should he have been picked with the 50th pick instead of the first pick?
Of course.
You might be able to make that argument, but that ship sailed.
But yet you can't do anything
he is their
about that
best
now.
quarterback by far.
The closest competition is Derek Anderson. Like, that's how bad it's been. So inside Cleveland, there are definitely people that are saying, look, man, I get it. He's limited, but, like, who's it going to be if it ain't him? Who is it going to be?
Correct.
So there is a small part of that with me and Hollywood Brown.
Okay, I would hear that as well. I would hear that argument, but I don't know, man. I watch these other receivers, and I
hear you. Trust me, I would have much rather it been Deebo Samuel. I would have much rather it be A.J. Brown.
Think he's yeah. Now, I thought you were going in this direction, and I know there would be people in town who would poo-poo this and say, who cares what Lamar thinks? But I also think there is the quotient of what if you let Hollywood roll. What does that do to Lamar?
I hear you, and I don't think it's a nothing. I'm not saying it's a zero, but it's not going to be why I make my decision. I
agree, but I'm just saying I do think you do have that. They are friends. They are. You do have that. Now it's also a business, and at the end of the day, it's pretty easy to go to Lamar and say, "Hey, Chief, here's the deal. We're going to try to upgrade and get you better receivers so you can win more games and make more money."
Yeah.
And Hollywood's not the guy, and you're going to have to accept that. You can still text him every day.
Correct. Yeah,
when he's in New Orleans or wherever he is. Right.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. I think they have a really interesting offseason. I'm still not 100% convinced that both of the coordinators are coming back.
It's weird that John Harbaugh hasn't talked yet. Like, we can't, the conspiracy theorist would say he doesn't want to fire someone because he wants to help them in getting their next job. And so he wants to wait until all the jobs have been settled. And then if they're going to move on, they make the decision then, right? That's the John Harbaugh loyalty thing. But I'm in a weird place with that. I hear you. I think it's more likely than not at this point that they're back. But no, am I 100% certain that both are back? Frankly, the part we don't want to talk about is in terms of actual performance and what you've actually seen on the field, there's one that definitely should go more than the other one should.
Yeah, and it's not the one everyone thinks.
Yes, correct. And just in terms of what actually happened on the field.
Right.
Like, there's no team in the NFL that allowed more yards per play this season than the Baltimore Ravens did.
Correct.
And I get
now,
it.
Here's the thing. This is, look, I'm not over there like I used to be, and you're not over there like we used to be, right? Like they used to have to kick us out.
Correct.
And
did a few times.
That's correct. But I think I still, I feel like I still know John very well. And I haven't been around him in 7 years, but I can watch every press conference, and I know all of the body language and all of the facial expressions because we sat there and watched him for 6 years, right? I know when he's lying. I know when he's telling the truth. I know when he doesn't want to answer the question. I know him, and I have a feel for how it goes over there, as you do, because we know people. And my feel might be that when the season ended and the 2 or 3 days went by and all of the mourning was over, that Steve might have said to him, and maybe Eric, but probably more Steve, as a purview from 35,000 feet, Steve might have said to John, hey, what are you doing with the coordinators?
Okay.
And John might have said, why do you ask?
Right.
And Steve might have said, I'm just wondering, are we keeping them, not keeping them? And before John got a chance to answer, Steve said, because we probably should talk about whether or not we keep them or not.
Okay. It's totally possible.
When that happens, that throws John into what we all sort of know, which is his what? His defensive mechanism.
Yeah, correct.
Well, what do we? Why are we getting rid of them? You see the injuries?
Right, correct.
And without mentioning any names, you've seen a very obvious public defense of both of the coordinators recently by Ravens employees.
Sure.
Been very obvious.
Sure.
And I don't think they did that on their own.
You might be right about that. About that.
But fast forward to John's thing of just now he's defending.
Sure.
And it wouldn't surprise me if that's going on, and that's why you haven't heard anything, because they may be in this situation where there is a little bit of a tug of war going on.
I think you're right about that, and I think it's possible that that's the case. And I do think that at some point he's got to answer some questions. Like, you got to go answer some questions and stop letting this drag out. I got to run because we're up against something. What's coming up at drewsmorningdish.com?
Not much. Just beat up on the Terps today a little bit, and everything's going well.
All right. We got to get the. I'll talk to you after the show. We got to figure out what we're doing here this week. All right. Thanks, bud. Drew Forrester, drewsmorningdish.com. Checking in with us here on GCR. Continue to get me your responses for Would You Rather Wednesday. Brought to you by Glory Days Grill, where they've got the smoky thigh wings, they've got the smoky thigh wings, they've got the smoky thigh wings, they've got the smoky thigh wings. They have other things. They have the comfort food classics on their seasonal menu, the house-made meatloaf, grilled meatloaf sandwich, short rib grilled cheese. They got all of those things as well, but the smoky thigh wings, the smoky thigh wings, the smoky thigh wings, the smoky thigh wings. Get your order in right now at glorydaysgrill.com. And enjoy it. Enjoy it tonight. Take it home with you for dinner this evening. Glory Days Grill. Let's grab a break.
Is that, I don't know what was going on there for a second. Were you trying to assuage? I know we ran long, but
So Mark Henry called my
Yep.
personal phone
We
and
good?
told me to call him as soon as the interview with Drew was over.
yeah.
And I just called and it goes straight to voicemail
Well, that's
on
not
his
great.
phone.
That's not great.
So I'm telling him to call me back on the studio.
All right, very good. Should we take a break?
I wouldn't.
No. Okay. All right, very good. We won't take a break here. Responses that have come in for Would You Rather Wednesday. For number one, for the Tom Brady one, KZ says, "Give me Brady." From Nick Kelly, Brady. I'm so used to it that it doesn't bother me. The Bengals winning would be much more impactful for the Ravens and their future playoff runs. Maybe not. It's not certainly not guaranteed that that's the case. From John in Little Rock, Brady again. Why the F not? I don't want the Bengals to be that great. Right now. They have the swag, though. From Paul in Ovilando, I wanted to pick Burrow and Chase because I figured the Browns family owning Cincinnati Bengals, they'd still find a way to screw things up, but I don't want to risk an AFC dynasty again, so I'll go with Brady and the Bucks. At least they're in the other conference. And from Kim, Tom Brady and the Bucks win. What's one more? No way in HE double toothpicks do I want the Bungles to win. Continue to get me your responses for Would You Rather Wednesday at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. This week, the stars of AEW Wrestling are invading D.C., and they got shows tonight and Friday night. So in between, where else would they want to be but here in Baltimore at Jimmy's Famous Seafood for a very cool event benefiting the Brigance Brigade tomorrow night, which is an awesome thing for guys like the great Mark Henry to be doing. And joining us right now here on GCR, of course, an icon in pro wrestling, the world's strongest man, Busted Open Radio. He is the great Mark Henry. Mark, it's Glenn and Paul in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Man, you're very welcome, man. I'm at a school visit right now, and I had some.
Oh, Mark, you still there? Can we still hear you? Oh, Mark, can you?
Yeah,
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
now?
we got you back there. We lost you for a second. I apologize.
Okay, I'm at a school in the inner city over here in D.C.
Oh, it's awesome, man. That's awesome. That's a cool thing for you to do.
The team, I'm just explaining to a couple of the students that are sitting here in the office with me how to. We started this community team because we wanted to leave an impression on the community that we went into. And when you go to a place and you take, people spend money, they use their resources to come and listen to us. We want to give back. We want to leave an impression. And we know people are going through things. Sit down, young man. I'm sitting here with a kid. He lost somebody special to him, and you need counsel. You need somebody that actually cares, that wants to make sure you are. And that's what AEW is doing on the side. It's not just wrestling. We're wrestling at the highest level in the world right now. You just check the ratings. But I feel like our biggest influence is doing stuff like we're doing on Thursday at Jimmy's Seafood.
Yep.
In Baltimore.
Well, that's
we're helping raise money so that whatever charity at that moment that we're working with is able to help the people and empower the people living with ALS.
Yep.
And it's just some beautiful people that we're working with. And we hope that people get all the vital information, which we'll make sure that we do that before we sign off, and come and enjoy it and hang out with us and realize that this is something that we want to keep doing as long as we can do it.
So there's a couple things I want to respond to there. First of all, and I'm sure it's somebody you're having a sweet moment with, but I'm thinking about how intimidated I would be if Mark Henry said to me, "Sit down, young man." I would say, "Right now, sir. Right now." I will do that.
Not in a bully way, though.
No, I know that's true. I know
in a
that.
loving way. People see past what I look like when I'm directing my attention to them.
Of course. I know.
And one of the special things God gave me is the ability to lead men and women. I've been the captain of every team I ever been on. I've always tried to lead. I don't preach with with just like, oh, I'm trying to bring you to the Lord. It's not always a spiritual thing because everybody don't believe. But the people that are believers, that they know my heart, they know my spirit, then they understand who I am.
It's powerful.
And this kid is, he needs to be talked to. Everybody do. I need it. I got people that help me every day, and I'm sure y'all do too. So you know what it is.
I think it's an important thing. My buddy Tyus Bowser from the Ravens said that, right? Like, we got to be able to say, hey, how are you doing? And it's okay to say sometimes I'm not doing all right. It's that.
Yeah,
It's
people try to be tough and suck it up, man.
Yep.
Like, ain't nothing wrong with you, and all that's gonna do is make you internalize it, and it's gonna affect the people around you.
Mark.
I mean, I want everybody to be on the upswing, not on the downswing.
I appreciate that, man. I really appreciate that. Mark Henry is with us, and as he's talking about tomorrow night, he and Matt Hardy and the Acclaimed and other stars from AEW, they're going to be at Jimmy's Famous Seafood for an incredible event benefiting the Brigance Brigade. Of course, you know how much we love O.J. Brigance in this town, and we've been with him through his own personal battle with ALS. He is truly a hero. So we want to support them. You can go to jimmysfamousseafood.com right now to get your tickets, and we're going to link up the event as well. The cool thing about doing an event like this, Mark, is like you get to do it at Jimmy's Famous Seafood, right? Like, I'm assuming you're a man who's had a few meals at Jimmy's Famous Seafood during the course of your life.
Man, I listen. They have always extended the open door policy to pro wrestlers.
Yep.
And I've been going there for probably the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Nobody does a crab cake like they do a crab cake.
That's what I want to know. What's your go-to? What is your
the crab cake, man?
Okay.
I'm straight up the crab cake. They have a pasta dish that I like, the shrimp and pasta. That there'll probably be a little bit of that consumed too.
I love that. And they're doing a buffet tomorrow night, and your opportunity to meet and get pictures and autographs with the stars of AEW. And again, it all benefits the Brigance Brigade. It is truly the definition of a win-win tomorrow night at Jimmy's. You got to go check that out. Mark, the last time you and I talked, you weren't in AEW yet. You talk about what you're doing in the community team and how important that is. For people that would say, why would somebody that, was so accomplished in one company, why would someone like that choose to leave to go somewhere else? Take me through why it was that AEW was something that you wanted to do and a new challenge that you wanted in your professional career.
Just so you know, like I didn't leave WWE under bad terms or I got fired or none of that. I left because I wanted to be an executive. I was done with. I wasn't the same wrestler that I was 20 years ago, and I wanted the people to remember me wrestling when I was great. I didn't want to be looking at people go, oh man, he done fell off. Like, I didn't want that. So at a certain age, you got to be like, how can I help the industry without bleeding and sweating for it? And that's what I wanted to do, is to make that transition. And I didn't have the opportunity at that company. So when I was going to do that, I started fielding calls from other companies, not just wrestling companies, but I talked to NFL teams. I talked to semi-pro basketball teams, farm development teams. Like, leadership is leadership, regardless of what sport or what industry. It's just, I wanted to be on the executive side. And AEW, talking to Tony Khan, he was like, man, stop playing with me. Will you do it? And I was like, hell yeah, I'll do it. Like, let's go.
Wow.
And it happens really, really fast. It happens in about a 3-week period. And I'm able to AEW be the company that large companies are. And the lessons that I learned I paid attention. And, we're doing good not only in business or not only in the ring, but our business is doing well. And the swell of affection that we're getting from the fan base is enormous because we're giving in these communities. We're not doing multimedia, we're doing grassroots marketing. That's
And Mark, I apologize. We're starting to lose you again, man. I'm sorry. Can you still hear us okay?
I can hear y'all fine.
All right. Sorry about
I think it's more
the
I'm in a big concrete building.
Right. We know how the technology is what it is. But I understand everything you're saying. Mark, is it ever awkward? Obviously people, of course, love you on Busted Open, and you guys have created this sort of cult following with that show within the wrestling community. Is it ever awkward being someone who's an executive in a company, knowing that you got to talk about the business as a whole? Is there ever any awkwardness to that?
Sometimes I have talent. They don't feel like I'm talent no more. But you know what? Like, it's like being a parent. You want to love your kids and have fun with them, but you sometimes to reach them, you can't be their friend. You have to be the boss. You have to be somebody that directs people and tell them what to do for their own benefit, to help them. Not for you trying to show off. Hey, look at me. It's like you trying to work for the best for everybody, and that's kind of the way I try to handle it.
I mean, I completely understand that, man. Do you still have a thought of like, man, I got one more match I'd like to do. I got one more. One more salmon jacket I can put on and do. Do you still have any thoughts like that, or are you completely at peace at this point and saying I don't need to do that ever again?
You know what? I'm completely at peace. But if there was somebody that I could work with, or there's somebody that felt like I fell off so far that they can just take advantage of me, then I'd show them that I'm not. I'm as good once as I ever was, but I will not be able to do that for a long period of time. Like, I've worked out with guys and trained guys, and the next day I feel like somebody beat me with a baseball bat. And I don't like feeling like that no more.
I don't blame you for that. I don't blame you even a little bit for that. So is it true that the salmon jacket isn't yours any longer? Like, we won't be able to see it again in AEW?
The salmon jacket is in. I gave it. I loaned it to WWE to put in their archives if they decide to do a Hall of Fame.
Man.
For their Hall of Fame, and I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
If I ever needed it back, it's a phone call, and then I'd probably just send it back to them.
It's cool that you respect that like you know how much that moment meant to so many professional wrestling fans, and I've told you this before. We have seen that angle in so many ways, and you did it better. Like, somehow a trope in professional wrestling that you did so much better than anybody else had ever done it, right? Like, which is incredible and a testament to you as a performer, how great it was. That's a cool thing to me, that despite being in a different place, you still respect where that is as part of wrestling history, and you sort of say, I know how much people care about that. I don't need it more than I want fans to be able to enjoy it.
Well, I'm not bitter either, and that's a big part of it. Some people, they get bitter and angry, and I want my stuff, you take your stuff, and we don't have to never talk. Like, that's not where I was.
Wow.
I left there on my own terms.
Yep.
And like, I still have people that I talk to over there. And if I needed some help with something, I think that I could call and say, hey, I need some help. But so far I have not. Everything that I've needed has been in my brain.
And clearly you guys are doing all right. There's no debate about that. You're doing all right.
We're doing pretty darn good.
I got to tell you, so you probably don't know this. One of my best friends on the planet is AJ Francis, who of course was Top Dollar, and I know he's been on your show.
That's my guy.
I know he's your guy. I know that's true. I got to tell you, it really moved me watching.
Awesome rapper, man.
He's by the way, every company on the planet should be trying to get the four of them back together right now. My God, what a mistake!
And I've said that. I've done the due diligence. When the time comes for something of that nature to be looked at, then, it's an option.
Man, it's a cultural movement, bro. Like, the way that touched people in a way that a lot of things in pro wrestling never have, man. Like, I'm so proud of him and everything that he's done. But what jumps out at me is watching you guys on the show, on the Most Wanted Treasure show. I had no idea how emotional you were about Andre the Giant, man. Like, that was one of the most moving.
I'm emotional all the time. I just almost started crying in front of these kids. I'm talking about just like 15 minutes ago. And, I love to hang out and talk to y'all. Hopefully I'll be able to come on and talk to y'all some more.
Yep.
But this kid is going to have to go back to class, and I need to talk to him.
You got it. Mark Henry, tomorrow night at Jimmy's Famous Seafood. We got the link up on our Twitter, at Glenn Clark Radio, benefiting the Brigance Brigade. Mark, grateful, man. We're such a fan and incredible. What a career, what a life you've lived. Can't wait to see what's next for you. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning. We really appreciate having the conversation.
I appreciate y'all, too. And I don't know if there's any tickets left. We've been selling out pretty fast. But you can go to AEW.com.
Yeah.
You can go to AEW.com and see if you can find out if there's any tickets left. We have a show on tonight as well as Friday.
Excellent. Mark Henry, thank you, my friend. Appreciate you doing this as always, man.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Thank y'all.
Mark Henry, the champ, the world's strongest man. That's so funny, him talking. Imagine a man that looks like that. Just getting emotional the way they did. If you didn't see, so AJ did the show on A&E, WWE's Most Wanted Treasures, which was sort of this, like, we want to go find wrestling memorabilia, famous wrestling memorabilia, and they did a Andre the Giant themed episode. And Mark Henry was crying, like, finding old Andre the Giant memorabilia. Like, that's how much Andre the Giant meant to him. And it was powerful, bro. You're like, holy crap, man! This is Mark Henry. Like,
I've known Mark Henry to be a bit of a crier. If you've watched him in his career when he's not in character, I've seen him be a bit of a crier.
I don't remember him being like, he's so, like, again, the retirement swerve was one of the greatest on a Raw. It's one of the greatest moments we've ever seen in professional wrestling. He sold it so effing well. It's why we always think of that. Like, he could have worn that salmon suit at any time, but we think about it because we think about that night and how well he sold that.
Weren't he and John Cena the only superstars that knew that was happening? Didn't everybody
I
else
believe
that
was the case, that he literally sold everyone. And remember, he was like tweeting at Stephen A. Smith during the day. He's like, hey big homie, doing a thing, making an announcement tonight or something like that. And it's Mark Henry. Everybody's like, man, like, I really do like Mark Henry. I'm really gonna miss Mark Henry, now that he's retiring. Like, he's been like the Big Show. Like, he's just been a ubiquitous part of watching professional wrestling for so long. It sucks that Mark Henry's retiring, right? And so you tuned in and you were having some emotions about it. And you really, despite knowing this is how professional wrestling works, despite knowing everything's a swerve, you sold yourself on it, and then you were like, oh my God, because it was that good. He was just that good. We're so far behind on breaks. Can we take a break, or do we need to?
We can take a break.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you to Mark Henry. Support what they're doing for the Brigance Brigade. Today's show also brought to you by Mobile One. Mobile One full synthetic motor oil helps extend engine life. Visit your local Jiffy Lube service center. Ask for Mobile One. Speaking of Hall of Famers, Earl the Pearl Monroe is going to join us next. The CIAA Tournament's coming to Baltimore, and he's going to be part of the festivities. He's going to tell us all about that next. It's GCR. Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Duffy's Garage is a family-owned and operated car care facility in beautiful Baldwin, Maryland. An authorized Maryland inspection station and Napa Pro Care Center with ASE-certified techs. Tell them that Glenn Clark sent you and receive 10% off your service with a max discount of $150. You gotta trust where you take your car, so take it to where I take mine. Duffy's Garage in Baldwin. Duffy'sGarageMD.com.
The latest issue of Press Box is available now, and it's our very special annual Best of issue. On the cover, we celebrate Justin Tucker as our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year, honoring his historic on-field achievements, but also the unprecedented relationship he shared with Baltimore. Inside, we recognize the top people, performances, and moments of 2021, including Cedric Mullins' incredible season and the dominance of local Paralympic athletes. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The biggest pro wrestling stars today and all time all have one thing in common. You've heard them on Jobbing Out.
Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks.
Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it.
The great Kurt Angle.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Matt Riddle.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man.
The champ, Drew McIntyre.
Oh, thank you for having me.
The great Ron Simmons.
Damn.
Keith Lee.
Appreciate you guys having me, man.
Bill Goldberg.
My pleasure.
Charlotte.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mick Foley is with us.
This is the greatest name for a wrestling show I've ever heard.
MJF.
I'm glad you're happy I'm on this show because I'm freaking miserable.
Le champion.
Chris Jericho.
Le champion.
AJ, Aaron, Brandon, and Glenn are talking pro wrestling every week on Jobbing Out. Find it at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Stay tuned. Your chance to win $1 million is coming up. Probably not from us. You're listening to Glenn Clark Radio.
All right, back in here on GCR. Appreciated Mark Henry taking the time for us this morning. Today's show is also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Make the most out of every day in a Toyota RAV4, available on hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today. The CIAA Tournament is coming to Baltimore, and I am really excited about it because I think there's a lot of people that don't understand just how much this event is going to take over our city and pump in an economic boost, unlike so many sporting events. Our next guest knows a thing or two about a thing or two when it comes to the CIAA. He, of course, a legend at Winston-Salem State, and he's coming back to the place where he played professionally to start his Hall of Fame career, and he's going to be a part of this event here in Baltimore. It is always a thrill to welcome the Hall of Famer, Earl the Pearl Monroe, back to GCR. Earl, it's Glenn and Paul in Baltimore. It is so great to chat with you again, sir. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Well, thank you, guys. I'm doing okay. I mean, the older you get, the more you try and say that you're doing okay. So it's all good, man. Nice to see you guys.
Well, I know you dealt with you've been through everything, right? Like you've been through cancer, you've been through. Nobody can get Earl the Pearl Monroe. Like you're invincible at this point, aren't you?
Well, I like to think that, but obviously it's not the case. But the good thing about it is that I'm still here and still pretty viable. And, again, glad to talk to you guys as well.
It's great to chat with you. How cool is this for you, Earl? I know I don't think everybody realizes how much Baltimore has continued to be a part of your life, despite the fact that clearly, you moved on, you went to New York, and you're associated so heavily with the Knicks. For you to have an opportunity to reconnect with both the CIAA and the city of Baltimore here in the next month or so, what does this mean to you?
Well, it's really an exciting time for me. Coming back to, Baltimore, I've got a lot of friends still there. I still visit, obviously. And my daughter is there, and granddaughter and great grandkids, and so it's a great opportunity for me to come back and visit. But having the CIAA there is really, really great. It's a perfect city to host the CIAA, certainly in terms of how much of a proud African-American history it has and how it celebrates its culture. But, with all the teams that have been there, I played at Morgan, and then there's Coppin there, and there's a lot of things of interest that a lot of people coming from out of town will be able to take in.
For those that don't know, right, like, Earl, for people in Baltimore that are unaware of exactly what this event is and why it's different than the average basketball tournament that might come through town, how could you best describe what's about to come to our city in the CIAA?
Well, it is more than just a basketball game. It's a real party for people who come to the CIAA and enjoy it. There'll be rap concerts, there'll be R&B concerts, there'll be other, things that are going to be, great for the city itself. There's going to be things for the kids that are involved. I mean, myself and Bobby Daniels, we're going to be hosting a youth clinic with 200 kids. It's going to be a real party, and I think the bottom line is that the economy in Baltimore will be better for it, because when you have all these people coming in, they're going to spend money, and it's going to be great for the city.
There is no question about that. It is a major boon for this city, for the CIAA to be here, and yes, as Earl pointed out, 2 Hall of Fame kids are going to have the opportunity to learn from 2 Hall of Famers in Earl and Bobby Dandridge. That's an incredible thing. Earl the Pearl Monroe with us here on GCR. Earl, the other thing that comes with this is there's more of an effort from ESPN to be involved in the CIAA tournament this year than they ever have been before. How important to you is that exposure for these athletes? These, what's happening here, and to your point, these are historically black colleges and universities that are playing in this tournament and that are part of this conference. How significant is that for you that there will be greater exposure for these athletes and what's going on with the CIAA?
Well, the whole thing about exposure is why, a lot of kids have gone off to other universities and colleges, and being able to get the type of exposure that ESPN and other outlets give you, it makes it easier to go and perform in a CIAA or any other black conferences around the country. And what we're seeing is that there's such an emphasis being put on HBCUs this year that it's enticing a lot of really great athletes to consider going to some of those universities and colleges. So it's a great experience. They'll have NCAA people out looking at them. It's just a great thing to have. And the most important thing to me, as I see it, is that, and I was in the shower thinking about this morning. I was the second choice for the Baltimore Bullets.
That's right.
Actually, in the whole NBA that year.
That's
that
right.
I came out. Now, think if something like that would happen now, what would that do in terms of not only recognition, but those kids that are involved? Think of what that would do for them and the people that they have around them.
Oh.
It's unbelievable.
No question. I mean, it's absolutely no question that's true. And we see, I think it was pleasant to see Howard getting that national TV game the other day on Martin Luther King Day. Howard played Notre Dame, right? Notre Dame came to D.C. to play a game there on Martin Luther King Day, which I thought was great. There's going to be a MEAC showcase involved with the NBA All-Star Game this year. Morgan's going out to be participating in that. So those opportunities are massive, right? Like the exposure of getting the opportunity to play on national TV, it's a very significant thing.
No question.
Earl, you, of course, got to play. Maybe the irony of it, if I had told you, like, we're going to take you back to 1967, and I told you, hey, in the year 2022, you're going to come to a basketball tournament, and it's going to be played in the exact same building that you were playing in 1967. I think everybody in Baltimore is hopeful. Kevin Durant's company is involved with trying to upgrade the arena. But take me back to your memories of the building and what's all these years later, it's now known as the Royal Farms Arena, but the Baltimore Civic Center. What does that place mean to you?
Well, it certainly holds a lot of memories. I can remember my first time in there and looking around. And the locker rooms were upstairs. We had to come out from upstairs and go to the court.
That's right.
It was interesting, but the love that we got from the fans and whatnot. I can remember my first game there, and my alumni association in Winston-Salem had gotten one of the jazz greats who that came in, and he performed that evening for us, and it was like kind of surreal. And I can remember Gus Johnson being there, and Kevin Lockery, West came the next year.
Yep.
Interestingly enough, I'm doing a foreword for a book by another one of my teammates, Ray Scott, who was there at that time. So it was just a great time to be in Baltimore, and it wasn't a lot of fans at first, but as we started to play and as people started to see that we were an up-and-coming team, people started to come out and give us the love that we deserved, and it was a great time.
Do you believe that Baltimore look, they would need a new building, and even an upgraded Royal Farms Arena probably wouldn't be the place, but do you believe still that Baltimore could be an NBA town?
Well, yeah, because Baltimore is a pro city. I mean, the game for Baltimore, guys, there's so many guys who come out of Baltimore. They play in the NBA. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, guys who come through Baltimore. It's a mecca, and especially from back in the day. I mean, you could just name guys that from one college to another that was in Baltimore. But I think that if in fact it was to happen, of course, the Bullets being in Washington, that might be too close.
Tough. Yeah.
But at the same time, certainly Baltimore is a major league town, as you see with your Orioles and the get ready to say Colts.
Yeah, the Ravens.
The Ravens.
Yeah, you knew what it was like when the Colts were kings. Like,
no
doubt.
No doubt about
it. Longtime local sports writer Paul McMullen checks in. He's asking for you to please put on another magic show on the Civic Center hardwood while you're here. Is there any chance we could possibly see, maybe an old-timers game, but maybe just a moment where you go out and remind everybody you're still Earl the Pearl Monroe?
Well, I wish I could, but now you have to get it on EA Sports.
Yeah, that is probably the way to do it. Earl, I'm so excited about this, man. This is so cool that you're coming back and that you're going to be here. It's of course bittersweet because Wes isn't here any longer, right? And it would be remarkable for that to be a reunion that would happen. But man, I'm so excited about this. The CIAA Tournament coming to Baltimore. Earl, is there anything we can plug for you, sir? I know that the book, if people haven't picked it up, probably still worth going and getting a copy of on Amazon right now, right?
No doubt. But I want to congratulate Al Hutchinson, who's there with Visit Baltimore, and what he's done to try and bring this. I've been down working with them, trying to get this tournament into Baltimore. So I want to say hi to Al, and also Mayor Scott. I mean, he jumped on the bandwagon. He's done a great job in trying to bring this, about. So I want to say, give a shout out to them. But, maybe one of the things I might want to say is that I have a school in the Bronx here. And it's the first ever. It's called the Earl Monroe New Renaissance Basketball School. But it's for everything not basketball, all the other ancillary things that that you can be about, just like as a broadcaster or a doctor or a physician for the team or something like that. We have all these different outlets that kids can major in, and maybe something like that could be done in Baltimore down the line. So I'm hoping that might happen.
Well, that would be wonderful. And we know how much the Unsubbed School has done for kids in this area. So that's a great idea. I mean, we would love for that to be the case. But you can go to earlmonroeschool.org right now in order to find out more. Earl the Pearl Monroe, it's always a thrill every time we get to chat with you, sir. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes. Look forward to seeing you here in town in just a little bit more than a month, all right?
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be back in Baltimore, as we call it, B-more.
I love it. I love it. Love it, man. Thank you, Earl.
All right. Be well.
Earl the Pearl.
Obviously an icon, an absolute icon in the sport of basketball, and very cool that he's coming back with Bobby Dandridge for an event surrounding the CIAA tournament. I found out the great DJ Cool is doing an event at Rams Head Live during the CIAA, and it led me to a really unfortunate discovery yesterday, Paul, which is, we had Don McLean on celebrating one of the great songs in music history yesterday, of course, American Pie turning 50 years old. DJ Cool, I would say if American Pie is 1, Let Me Clear My Throat has got to be number 2.
I literally just cleared my throat right before you said that.
How about that? You do that a lot. Let Me Clear My Throat is a moment in music that means something to people of a certain age that it's very difficult to describe because it's not really a song. It's a vibe is really what it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real verse, or it's just kind of a bass line, and then a DJ yelling out, "Let me clear my throat." I mean, that's all it is. And yet it touches us in a way that I can't possibly describe. So I said yesterday, I am so excited about DJ Cool, who's actually from D.C., and it's weird that I've never interacted with DJ Cool before. I just never have, particularly considering how much this song, quote-unquote, meant to me in my life. It was an eternal party anthem. It was you're having a good time. It doesn't even matter what he's yelling out. I think there were 3 different versions at one point that existed, that if you had a different CD, like if you had Ultimate Dance Party 1997, there was one version. If you had Jock Jams Volume 5, you had a different version of the song. Like you
Let
had
me close my gate.
I don't think it was that. No, I don't think it was that. But it was all like I think there were like weird parts, like now's the part for the ladies, and like it wasn't a song. It was just a thing that existed, and it was so beautiful. It was just such a moment in time that you could put on, and everyone would have a good time, and everybody would be dancing, they'd be into it, and they'd all yell out, "Let me clear my throat" together, because it was just this vibe. And I thought to myself, I know how much the song means to other people. So I tweeted about it. I said, if all the DJ Cool's playing Rams Head Live, if it was just like a 3-hour version of Let Me Clear My Throat, if he just did it for 3 hours, just kept scratching and kept playing the same beat and yelling out every few minutes, "Let me clear my throat, have mercy, babe, I hope you don't mind." If that was all it was for 3 hours, I would have the greatest time of my life. If it was a 3-hour, it didn't even have to be 3, 2 hours. 2 hours of a one elongated performance of Let Me Clear My Throat. I would pay, there's no dollar amount I wouldn't pay to experience that at Rams Head Live.
3 hours of that sober Glenn.
Yes. It's the moment. It's the feel. It's joy. I don't know how you're not getting this, Paul. It's everything you wanted in your life. It takes you back to a place where like nothing could go wrong and there was just happiness. Like that's what I think of when I think of Let Me Clear My Throat. It had that type of impact on my life. And I was vibing with it, and people were responding, right? And like everybody was in agreement, like it would be a wonderful way to spend the day. And then in doing more research, because it's hard to explain the Let Me Clear My Throat phenomenon to another human being. It ain't hard to explain American Pie to it. I put it on for my kids because I was saying to my wife the other day, I'm like, you're not going to believe this. Don McLean's coming on the show. This is incredible. And she's like, holy crap, that's amazing. And the kids were like, why do you care? And we just started singing it, like, because that's what you do, right? And the kids got it. They understood. By the end of the first time they'd ever heard it, they too were singing along, driving their Chevy to the levee, right? It's not hard to explain to a human being of any age why American Pie is such a significant piece of Americana. It is far more difficult to explain to if Zach Goodman was sitting here, I have no idea how I would be able to explain why Let Me Clear My Throat is such an important moment for people of a certain age. I couldn't possibly explain it. There's no powerful hook. How would I go about explaining the phenomenon that is Let Me Clear My Throat to a young person? But yet, for people of a certain age, it's powerful. It means everything. It's just unbridled joy that comes to mind when you think of that song. So I went to do some research. How did this ever become a thing, right? Like, why was Let Me Clear My Throat a cultural touchstone? Why is that the case? So I went and I did a little research, and I learned the single most disgusting thing that I could have ever learned yesterday. Let Me Clear My Throat never went platinum. It only went gold. And I'm going to be honest with you, I've never been more ashamed to be American. That is a stain on our society that Let Me Clear My Throat never was certified platinum. It is disgusting.
How many people feel about that song the way that you do, though?
No, I can't believe you. You're showing your ass right now, Paul. Like, you are showing your ass.
No,
in
I'm
this
not.
moment.
I'm playing devil's advocate.
No, you are showing your ass. Let Me Clear My Throat.
I love the song. It's a jam.
Let Me Clear My Throat was a movement. It was B1027 on a Friday night. You didn't know what it was, but you wanted to move in. Like, you wanted to live in the moment. This is what we know. Let Me Clear My Throat is a song by American hip-hop artist DJ Kool. It was released in April 1996 as the third and final single from his album. Name another DJ Kool single, by the way. Album of the same name. It was recorded live at the Bahama Bay Club in Philadelphia. That's part of the absurdity of this.
The Bahama Bay Club
It was
in
just
Philadelphia.
a guy scratching a DJ working a club in Philadelphia, and it just turned into this thing. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't. They didn't go into the studio and say, let's lay down a track. He was just hanging out on a Saturday night at a club in Philly, and all of a sudden he turned in the greatest musical moment of a decade. Name anything in the 90s more important than Let Me Clear My Throat. Anything. It sure is. I'll tell you what it ain't. It ain't Nirvana. Y'all have tried to remember that in a way because Kurt Cobain died. Nirvana was fine. Some moments that were great.
Kurt Cobain was murdered.
No, he wasn't.
He was murdered.
No, he killed himself, man.
He was murdered.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Okay, I didn't realize that was the bit that you were doing.
I firmly believe Courtney Cox hired somebody to murder.
It definitely wasn't Courtney Cox.
Not Courtney Cox.
Definitely wasn't. Definitely was not Courtney Cox.
Courtney Love.
Yes, Courtney Love.
I was talking about Courtney Cox last night with the wife. I'm sorry.
You guys talk about friends a lot. Like, do you have other? Like,
no, actually, it wasn't with the wife. It was somebody at work.
What happens when you guys run out of friends things to talk about? Do you just sit there in silence for hours?
I don't think you understand fully how much my wife loves that show.
Jesus. The most popular version. And then it goes into the versions. The most popular version of the song is the one recorded live at Bahama Bay. There are other versions. I'm telling you. At the time, in the late 1990s, there were like 8 different dance party compilation CDs that were being put out every year. And if you bought them, this song was on 3 different ones, and it was all 3 different versions of the song, but it was all the same thing. Hey, ladies, if you got a job and you ain't need no man, make some noise. Ah! And you would do it at a party, and I was like 15 years old, and I could feel it. Like somehow, like a middle school. I don't think it was a middle school, but around I was a freshman in high school, and they would put that song on at a dance, and we would pretend like we associated with these people that were talking about not needing no man. We were 14 years old. It was a moment, and it was never certified platinum, and we should all be ashamed. It's the single worst thing I've ever learned about this country.
How many of the song have been sold? How many?
I don't know.
Is it close enough that Glenn Clark could get a loan?
Could I singularly take it from gold to platinum? All I know is it's to be certified gold, you have to have sold 600,000.
And to be certified
copies.
platinum, you have to have sold
a million.
Right.
So it's somewhere between 600,000 or a million, but they don't have like the actual number listed. And I know that now in like this new world, they count like if you play it on Spotify, it counts as like, I don't know, a third of a sale or something like that. Like there's a certain number of times it needs to be played on Spotify.
Do you have Spotify? Do you pay for that?
Of course I pay for. Imagine having access to the entire history of music and being like, I'm good. I'd rather not. Do I?
Okay. So just go play it on a loop.
Yeah, I've thought about that. It's something that I think it's important enough that I'd be
You
willing
could
to
do that for 3 hours yourself. You could just go to a park and play it for 3 hours.
The first 2, if you search DJ Kool, the first 2 are 2 different versions of Let Me Clear My Throat. And I'm also going to guess this is what screwed him in getting platinum, is there's not just one version that people were buying. I'm going to guess that screwed things up for Let Me Clear My Throat, which, again, is the most important song of a decade. Most important cultural moment of a decade, frankly. It's something, and we're going to need to get, I'm just putting you in charge, we need to get DJ Cool on before he comes to Baltimore for the CIAA tournament, because we need to talk about this. You know who else is coming to Baltimore? DJ Jazzy Jeff. We're definitely we need to get him on too.
Nice.
We need to go heavy on this, because this is,
Can we get them
these
in
are my
studio?
people. I would like that a great deal, but I know it's still awkward for people right now, like being in studio. I understand that's a whole thing. I would prefer to have specifically DJ Cool. I would like for DJ Cool to come perform Let Me Clear My Throat live in studio. Get on that. Kyle never got me. I asked for one guest. I asked for two guests ever. Kyle never got. The first one, I understand he got too famous again. It became a problem. I wanted to have Paul Bettany on the show, right? Then he became Vision, and then it was never going to happen again. I wanted him on to talk about the classic Wimbledon, of course, where he played the great Peter Colt, and I wanted to discuss that because I had a lot of questions about Peter Colt's rise from retirement to literally winning Wimbledon. He won the Wimbledon tournament, and I wanted to talk about that, and Kyle failed, and then he became too famous, and he couldn't do our show. The second one, Mark Morrison, because he's responsible for Return of the Mac. Oh, crap. I just realized Return of the Mac might be as important as Let Me Clear My Throat as far as 90 songs are concerned. And now I have a conundrum. I am dealing with my brain just broke considering this and which one is more important, because they're both equally important. I asked for those two guests. They failed. Now this is far easier than those two things. He's coming to Baltimore. He's going to be here. I could get him. I guarantee I could get if I put 2 ounces of effort into it, I could have DJ Cool on the show next week. But I'm going to assign it to you. It's your job. You get DJ Cool on the show. We need to talk about this. We need to talk about what a travesty it is. A travesty within pop culture that Let Me Clear My Throat was not certified platinum. I got to be honest with you. I care way more about that than I care about Maryland basketball, than I care about the work stoppage, or that I care about the idea of the Buccaneers perhaps winning another Super Bowl, right? Like, way more concerned about the Let Me Clear My Throat situation. Get on that, all right? That's an assignment. Okay. That's an assignment. It's not an ask. It's an assignment.
And when does he come to Baltimore?
February with the CIAA tournament.
Okay.
All right?
Duh. Okay.
Got to lock this up, man. Got to lock it up. Hey, if you missed it on Monday night, Stan the Fan Charles and Ross Grimsley caught up with Jim Palmer. I bet all they talked to Jim Palmer about was Let Me Clear My Throat. It's that important. I bet it's all they discussed. But if you missed that, I would encourage you to go right now to facebook.com/PressBoxSports, click on the videos tab, or go to PressBoxOnline.com and /video, and you can find it there. Stan and Gary are doing a really special show tonight about the remarkable story of Yeshiva basketball. I'd encourage you to study up and then check that out tonight on Facebook Live. When we come back in, we'll get a tidbit and tuba to wrap it up. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The latest issue of Press Box is available now, and it's our very special annual Best of issue. On the cover, we celebrate Justin Tucker as our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year, honoring his historic on-field achievements, but also the unprecedented relationship he shared with Baltimore. Inside, we recognize the top people, performances, and moments of 2021, including Cedric Mullins' incredible season and the dominance of local Paralympic athletes. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farms stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
Need to hone your computer skills to boost your career? Or maybe you want an IT certification? CCBC Continuing Education has the courses and programs you need for a career in the computer field. And it's all tuition free. From the basics to specialized training, we have the classes you need from hardware to programming to cybersecurity and so much more. It's your choice. It's your career. Call 443-840-4700 or visit ccbcmd.edu/computer training.
Window Depot Baltimore provides the highest quality Pro Via windows, doors, and siding for all budgets. The best is finally affordable. Call them today for a free in-home consultation at 410-941-3499. They also offer Zoom and FaceTime consultations in an effort to practice social distancing. A proud sponsor of the Tyus Bowser Show, you can find out more at WindowDepotBaltimore.com.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
If you miss anything, don't forget that you can find whole shows later on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon Podcasts. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
All right, winding down for a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the show. Where were you on the Would You Rather Wednesday question about Ozark, by the way?
So for Ozark, been there, done that with dies to save everybody else type of thing. I'm more of a happy ending guy, but I don't even think it's going to be a happy ending.
That's the thing. I don't think it can be a happy ending.
I think that they're going to end up being drug kingpins.
You think they just sort of fully embrace...
I think that they're the guy who, like the head guy.
Yeah, that guy, right,
in season 4.
Right.
I think that they overtake him and they become the kingpins. That's their life now. I think they're in too deep, and that's their life now.
I don't think I want that. I think there's got to be an out for the kids because the kids have done nothing other than protect their family, and I think there's got to be an out for the kids.
If they become the kingpins, the kids have an out because
I understand, but that just makes them bad people now. Now they're part of it, right? Like now the kids are in on it.
Are they really good people though? Not the
well, the kids.
The kids will.
The kids so far have only been about protecting the family. That's it. There's nothing that suggests that they're bad people.
Maybe
Ruthie certainly was questionable, right? Like Ruthie's
not their kid though.
I know she was sort of accepted as sort of like an adopted daughter, right? Like for a little while now. Obviously, there've been some issues, but she was kind of accepted as being like an extension of him as a parent. That he was looking out for her too. But at least there was enough to begin with that, like, if Ruth ends up being a bad person, like, fine, because she sort of started as someone who was very much on the path to being a bad person. But they've created her character as being someone who's caring and nurturing and loves her family and all that. And so I don't want the three of them. They're the redeemable characters in all of this, right? And the argument for Marty is that he didn't want to be involved with this anyway, right? Like, that's the biggest argument for him is that he never had any interest in this. He was basically doing this for survival, right? So you can make the argument for you want him to survive because he never really wanted to be in on any of this anyway, right? So I can hear that argument, and some people are making that argument, right? But at the end of the day, I don't think there can be a happy ending. And
not for this show, no.
No, and I think the only fitting way for it to end is for him to say, look, this was always about protecting my kids the entire time. I need to do what's best for protecting my kids. And maybe it's not him dying. Maybe it's him going, whatever it is, just allowing himself to go to jail, at the end, right? Like, whatever. I will serve like something along those lines. But I think people have made way too much of the parallels between Ozark and Breaking Bad, and stupid Kyle was like, "Well, I'm not going to watch Ozark because it can't be as good as Breaking Bad." I'm like, there are other shows, right? Yeah. Like, they didn't stop making comedies after Seinfeld; they made good ones. Seinfeld was mediocre. They made
That's a take.
It's the dumb. Seinfeld was fine. Everything about it was fine. It's treated as the greatest comedy of all time. It is not that.
Oh, it's not that.
But it was fine. It was, it's quite agreeable. It's pleasant. We're just dumb, and so shiny red ball is easy for us, right? It's the same society in which, what's the Big Bang Theory was a smash hit because we're just dumb people.
Yeah.
I don't need to I'm not worried about the parallel between Ozark and Breaking Bad. That does not concern me if it ends up with Marty sacrificing himself to protect his family. But I don't think it has to be that either. I just don't think in the end I need to see I think at some point Marty has to accept, like, people have been hurt. While yes, you've done everything. By the way, if you haven't watched, that's on you. You've had years. I'm not doing a spoiler alert thing. Like, this isn't a movie that came out 2 weeks ago. You've had years. It's on you. You've made your decision. You ain't watching.
It's on Netflix. Everybody has
Yeah,
Netflix.
correct. You can go watch it. Yeah, that's a fact. I just don't, at this point, I don't need him to survive any longer. I think he can accept, hey, a lot of people have been hurt. You know, there's only one real way for this to end.
I think to that
maybe
point,
maybe that makes jail the better option, that at some point he just says, I'm not going to run any longer. I'll accept my fate. And he and Laura Linney, you know, go to jail. Laura Linney's not a good person either.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't want to be involved with this necessarily, but, you know,
not a good person.
she was cheating on him to begin with, right? Like, come on.
I think that to your point, it would have to be jail. Otherwise, like it would have to be I'll go to jail but leave my family out of this type of thing. Like, you can have
you're right. If that's the case,
if he dies, he can't do that.
The chick that was working, that came, was that the FBI or the CIA? Who's that? The pregnant chick that was on the boat, like, literally watching his every move.
Right.
Like, he eventually just goes to her and says, "Look, let's work this out.
Mm-hmm.
Get them out, make them safe, and you can have me, right, at some point, but just me." And that would be wrong, because she should go too. The both of them should go to jail.
Well, I can totally see a scenario where he says that she gets them out, and then Laura Linney's character still becomes this drug kingpin or whatever. Because I feel like she's turned to the dark side.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong about that. All right, well, there you go. That's that conversation. It's back this weekend.
As for the other one, because I didn't get a chance to do the Bozeman Chandler Jones
yeah.
thing, the Ravens have done this in the past where they get guys on the wrong side of 30, they bring them in, and they aren't the player that they once were. I'd rather you lock up Bradley Bozeman, because the most important part of your team is Lamar Jackson and keeping him upright and healthy.
Yep.
And I feel like Oweh can be a player, and I feel like you can find another player.
I hope so.
I'd rather give the money to Bozeman than Jones.
All right. At Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter, Facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. Get your responses in for Would You Rather Wednesday. Oh, yikes. Yuck. All right. Let's get a tidbit. Tidbit brought to you by the Best Of issue of Pressbox, which is available right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms. And in the hundreds of locations around town, we find Pressbox, or read it all, PressBoxOnline.com/bestof on the cover. Our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year, Justin Tucker. Go get it right now. It is a very special issue. And yes, Paul from Ovilander, what kind of question is that? Have I been watching Season 2 of Righteous Gemstones? There is nothing more important than Season 2 of Righteous Gemstones.
No spoilers. I have not caught up on the most recent episode.
It is not what I expected from this season. It is just it's
in a good way?
It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. Oh, it's just not what I expected. And, John, what would I think about the Ravens signing Christian Kirk? I think he would benefit from getting a chance here, since Arizona doesn't play him enough. You know, that's hard. It's hard for me to envision the scenario where a player finds who they were supposed to be in the Ravens offense. Like, that's a difficult thing for me to figure. But in the role of adding one more receiver that doesn't cost you a lot of money and gives you another option and some depth, yeah, sure, I'd be willing to take the chance on Christian Kirk, I think. All right, go ahead.
All right, so on Saturday night, the Bills scored a touchdown on all 7 of their drives that didn't involve a kneel down. Josh Allen completed 21 of 25 passes for 308 yards and 5 touchdowns with 0 turnovers, good for a passer rating of 157.6, just off a perfect rating of 158.3. Allen became the 8th quarterback since 1990 to throw for at least 5 touchdowns in a playoff game. Who were the other 7? And who were the who were the other 7? And who were the only 2 to do it twice?
The funny thing is, I'm not remembering them right off the top of my head, but I'm going to say Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, he's tied for the most with 6. He did it January 14th, 2012 against the Denver Broncos.
I think part of the frustrating part is that I choose to try to not remember some of these things. Again, I don't remember it, but based on sheer opportunity, Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning, he threw 5 against the Denver Broncos on January 4th, 2004.
Who else played the Denver Broncos? I mean, Joe Flacco threw a lot, but I don't think it was 5.
No.
Yeah. Kurt Warner.
5 on January 10th,
against the
2010
Panthers?
Against the Green Bay Packers.
The Packers and the
and they kind of
I do remember that being an ass kicking.
He's one of the guys who did it twice. He did it January 10th, 2010 against the Packers, and he did it January 16th, 2000 against the Minnesota Vikings.
I guess that must have been the NFC Championship game, right?
But yeah.
Okay. Drew Brees.
No.
Brett Favre.
Nope.
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes is the other guy who did it twice.
Okay.
He did it this past week against Pittsburgh, 5 on.
I guess that makes sense. I didn't even think about it. It's so funny. I didn't even think about that.
That's
but
why
yeah,
I left it
sure.
in there. And then January 12th, 2020, he did it against the Houston Texans. 3 for 5. So you have 3 left. 4 left. I'm sorry, 4 left.
4 left. Since 1990?
Since 1990.
So it could be Troy Aikman?
No.
It could be Steve Young.
Steve Young.
I have a nasty little habit of forgetting Steve Young.
He threw for 6 touchdowns in Super Bowl 29 against the San Diego Chargers.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was a bludgeoning. Stan Humphries starting for the Chargers. Ben Roethlisberger.
Ben Roethlisberger threw for 5 on January 14th, 2018 versus Jacksonville Jaguars.
And how many more am I missing?
2. 1 you should get, 1 I'd be shocked.
1 I should get, 1 you'd be shocked. 1 I should get, 1 I should get. Aaron Rodgers?
No.
1 I should get. I should get.
That doesn't mean that they have to be closer to current.
Right, I hear you, but Joe Montana?
Joe Montana,
Okay.
5 in Super Bowl 24 against the Denver Broncos.
I did not realize that was past 1990. And then you said the other one I'm not going to get, or you don't think I'm going to get it.
You could.
Okay.
But I'd be based on relevancy, but
Rich Gannon.
No.
Trent Green.
No. Relevancy to us.
Based on relevancy to us. I think it was Randall Cunningham. Somebody who played for the Ravens, or somebody who played against the Ravens?
Played against the Ravens.
Against the Ravens.
But he didn't do this to the Ravens.
Didn't do this to the Ravens. So, Colin Kaepernick.
No.
Kerry Collins.
Kerry Collins in that 41-0 bludgeoning
Oh,
to
right,
get the Giants
that's right.
into the Super Bowl. Threw for 5
That's right.
touchdowns January 14th.
It was against the
2001.
Vikings, right?
Against the Vikings.
Got their asses absolutely handed to them. Wow. All right. Very good. Very good. Totally Tubular, brought to you today by Live Casino and Hotel. We're going to be hanging out there in the FanDuel Sportsbook on Sunday, myself and the NFL chick, Sarita Hubbard, for the Buccaneers-Rams game. Come join us, 3 o'clock. You can learn more about betting. You can experience the incredible atmosphere in the FanDuel Sportsbook with the 50 self-service kiosks, delicious food, all sorts of different options. They got tables. They've got reclining chairs. They've got sort of VIP service areas. You can go out and play other games, like they got Papa Shot basketball, and they got skee ball and bowling. And then, you're not that far away from going out and playing slots or card games either. Live Casino Hotel this Sunday. We're going to see you for that first game at 3 o'clock. It'll be myself and the NFL chick, Sarita Hubbard, hanging out with you there. Here's what's coming up tonight, totally tubular-wise. ESPN 3 for Albany and UMBC at 7. ESPN Plus for Lehigh Navy at 7 and BU Loyola at 7. Big Ten hoops tonight, Iowa Rutgers, 8:30 on Big Ten Network. ESPN 2 for coverage of the Australian Open features a good one, Taylor Fritz and Francis Tiafoe. Maryland's own Francis Tiafoe against Taylor Fritz, another American, tonight in Melbourne. The rest of the college basketball, find at GlennClarkRadio.com. Nets Wizards at 7 on NBC Sports Washington. ESPN's got Hornets Celtics at 7:30. Clippers Nuggets at 10. TNT Maple Leafs Rangers at 7:30. Avalanche Ducks at 10. USA Network for Leicester City and Tottenham Hotspur at 2:30. And TBS for AEW Dynamite at 8. Some non-sports highlights.
On CBS tonight at 8, The Price is Right at night. On ABC, The Goldbergs at 8, The Wonder Years at 8:30, The Connors at 9, and Home Economics at 9:30. Eric Andre is going to be on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
And he's in Righteous Gemstones.
There he is.
And it's wonderful.
The DC's Legends of Tomorrow on the CW at 8 o'clock. And then on Disney Plus, The World According to Jeff Goldblum, Season 2, Episodes 6 through 10. You
Okay.
made a Goldblum reference.
I do like Jeff
yesterday.
Goldblum, but I don't know anything about
And
this.
then the Book of Boba Fett Chapter 4 also assembled the making of Hawkeye.
Okay, very good. Thanks today to Drew Forrester. Thanks also to Kyle Stackpole from CBS Sports. Thanks to the great Earl the Pearl Monroe and Mark Henry. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Archives.
tab at glennclarkradio.com. KZ will join us tomorrow to make picks for the divisional round. It's tight. I'm only up by a game on Kyle, just by 2 on KZ. And I think Chikakonkwo is going to be, it's funny, I brought him up earlier, the Maryland tight end. I believe he's going to join us tomorrow as well, as we will begin talking to draft prospects over the course of the next few weeks. Thanks, everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, CCBC, Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, ExxonMobil, Great 8's Memorabilia, Live Casino Hotel, Underdog Fantasy Football, Duffy's Garage in Baldwin, Window Depot, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com, and MyBookie. Thanks to Paul Valley. Follow him on Twitter, at Paul Valley III. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Wednesday evening. Go Loyola. Go Navy. Go UMBC. Duke sucks.